Chapter 1937. You guys talk. I'll go out first. Fong Xiaojing crossed her arms and looked at Luo Qingshun. But the doctor said that my brother just woke up, so it's not suitable to talk too much. As soon as her voice fell, she didn't wait for Luo Qingshun's response before leaving the room. Luo Qingshun didn't bother to respond to her. After all, some people lived in different worlds in this life. Don't expect them to understand you, and you don't need to understand them. Have a seat, have a seat. Fong He's lips curled into a smile. His narrowed, peach blossom eyes still gave off a sunny and handsome vibe. Although his face was still a little pale, it seemed that he was slowly recovering. Luo Qingshun nodded and sat on a chair. She raised her eyes and asked, "How do you feel?" "I just felt like I had a very long dream, and I often saw your figure in my dream." Fong He looked at her and smiled. "I've heard about all the things that happened in the past few years from my cousin. His coma caused a lot of irreversible time and damage. In fact, in his heart, he felt very sorry for her. However, he only felt sorry for her because she was criticized by others, not for his feelings for her. There was one thing that neither He Jinyan, nor even Fong Xiaojing knew. It was true that he fell in love with Luo Qingshun at first sight. He didn't know why, but when he saw her for the first time, there was a special and wonderful feeling deep in his heart. His heart was beating very fast. If he just wanted to help Fong Xiaojing at first, then when he saw her, the help was completely over. If he succeeded in pursuing her, he would never leave her. He knew this better than anyone else. But he didn't expect that he would have an accident before all the wonderful things happened. You don't need to worry about these things. Luo Qingshun chuckled and shook her head. "I'm very happy that you can wake up." At this moment, she felt extremely relaxed. She no longer carried the burden of an innocent life on her shoulders. Perhaps she still had a chance to pursue her true love. He Jinyan, Fong He. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and interrupted him. She continued, "You don't have to feel sorry for me. You didn't do anything wrong. As for He Jinyan, that's between me and him." Since Fong He was awake, the ending of some stories should be changed. But she didn't know if she could find him in time. After a long time, he smiled brightly and looked at her. "If you two can be happy, I will be very happy too. I won't disturb your rest, and I won't come again in the future." Luo Qingshun looked at him and said, "Goodbye." Qingshun, the moment she stood up, he called her name. After some hesitation, she bit her lip and said, "When I said that I fell in love with you at first sight, I wasn't lying. It's true. It's not a lie. If he had known her earlier than He Jinyan, perhaps the ending between them would have been different." "I know." Luo Qingshun didn't look back. Her eyebrows trembled slightly, and she said lightly, "People's eyes won't lie." She could see the faint guang in Fong He's eyes. This was also the reason why she had always felt guilty to him. After leaving the hospital, the first snow of Li Dong floated in the sky. She raised her hand slightly, and the snowflakes fell on her palm. Suddenly, she missed him a little. Where did He Jinyan go? Why didn't he contact her? Chapter 1938. After walking around the supermarket, she planned to go home alone and cook a hot pot for dinner. She didn't expect that she would receive a call from the real estate agent, who invited her to dinner. Luo Qingshun thought that the agent wanted to raise the rent, or there was another tenant who wanted to move in. She didn't know that what the agent wanted to tell her was something she would never expect. "Miss Luo, I'm really sorry to invite you to dinner so suddenly." The agent was a woman in her early 30s. They had met several times, and she looked like a businesswoman. Luo Qingshun didn't seem to care since she was living alone. If someone invited her to a meal like this, why wouldn't she accept? "It doesn't matter. I'm alone too," Luo Qingshun said while brushing the mutton. "Do you have any requests this time? I was planning to transfer 3 months' worth of rent to you tomorrow." No. The agent shook her head and said with a smile, "Miss Luo, you misunderstood. I'm not here to ask you for rent." Luo Qingshun frowned, and a puzzled look flashed through her eyes. The agent hurriedly took out a stack of documents from her briefcase and put them on the table. "This is the property certificate and the information of the owner of the land. The landlord asked me to do this 3 months ago." 3 months ago. Luo Qingshun was stunned. She could clearly feel that her fingertips trembled unconsciously. The mutton in the colander was already cooked, but she forgot to pick it up. Yes. The agent nodded politely. Because Miss Luo didn't come in person, many things became more complicated. We used a lot of connections and finally got it done this afternoon. She opened the blue folder. The most eye-catching thing was the 3 big words beside the name. Hijinyan. You mean he bought the house? Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and drank 2 mouthfuls of water to calm herself down as much as possible. No. The agent shook her head. Mr. Hijinyan is the owner of this house. He is the owner of that house. At this moment, Luo Qingshun was immersed in the memories of the past. No wonder she could rent such a high-end house at such a discounted price. No wonder there was no tenant on the first floor of the house after she rented it for so long. No wonder Hijinyan was so relaxed when he came to her house for the first time. It turned out that this house was his. This kind of news was really too shocking to her heart. He had hidden it deep enough and hidden it for long enough. The landlord didn't find a tenant for Miss Luo because he was afraid that it would be inconvenient for you. At first, he wanted to rent the whole set to you, but because the price was too low, he was afraid that you would be suspicious. Originally, there was an inexplicable sadness in her heart, but the agent didn't forget to say a few more words, causing the sad atmosphere to spread completely from the bottom of her heart. Do you know where he went? Luo Qingshun's eyes trembled slightly. She knew that the other party couldn't possibly know, but she still asked with hope. Chapter 1939. Some people didn't appear for any special reason, but to let you know that no one could understand you as well as he did for the rest of your life. When you needed him, he would stand behind you and betray the whole world. When you didn't need him, he would stand in a place you couldn't see, silently protecting you. In fact, she thought about going abroad to find him, looking for him city by city. Even if it was looking for a needle in a haystack, at least she had some hope. But she knew very well that she couldn't find him. And if he missed her, he could find her with a phone call. But he didn't. In the days to come, she actually thought about going back to the chaos space. Anyway, the task had been completed, and staying was just an endless wait for him. But she was unwilling to accept that under the plot of youth over in this plane, like most couples, there wasn't a good ending. She wanted a good ending, so this time, she was the one waiting for him. After graduation, she stayed at home for a few months, looking at several jobs in the computer industry, but decided to give up in the end. In the end, she chose a career that was the opposite of mathematics. A writer. No, to be more precise, it should be a text writer. To put it more simply, it was an editor. She became an editor of a youth magazine, with a lot of writers under her. Every day, she looked at all kinds of true and false youth stories to fill the loneliness and emptiness in her heart. This year was her 3rd year in Sakura magazine. She finally went from being an apprentice editor to being the chief editor of Sakura magazine's A edition. Over the years, there were a lot of people chasing her, but unfortunately, no matter how fierce the pursuit was, she rejected them all. The dash, the sound a new WeChat message sounded. Her hands didn't leave the keyboard, but looked at the calendar. Today was Fong He's birthday. He was one of the most famous writers under her. Coupled with his good looks, he had a large number of fans. 15 minutes later, she finished the last article in her hand and picked up the phone on her right hand. The man who charmed thousands of girls. Big editor. Can you do me the honor of having a meal? I'm alone now, and you're my only friend. Looking at this WeChat ID, Luo Qingshun almost laughed out loud. This was the author's private WeChat account. If his fans knew that his private WeChat account was this name, they would definitely not call him Moo Young Man. Qingshun. Yes, I just finished. Her WeChat name was very simple. It was her name. Sometimes, she would inadvertently think that one day, that young man would forget her phone number. Perhaps he could use a blind search to find her. Although it was a stupid idea, he had never looked forward to it that way before. The man who charms thousands of girls. The Porsche 911 is waiting for you downstairs. Luo Qingshun didn't reply. She put the phone in her handbag and walked towards the elevator. Hello, Editor Luo. Hello, Editor Luo. Editor Luo just got off work. Everyone in the magazine respected her very much. After all, she led the youth column on page A, and every issue was the most popular. Of course, those articles were not all written by her, but chosen by her. Therefore, she was quite famous in the field of literature. After all, there were many fine steeds in this world, but there were very few beaux low. Chapter 1940. Ding! The elevator door opened. Standing inside was the chief editor of Team B, Wang De, nickname 1,000-Year-Old Demon. Behind him stood two assistants in lace dresses and heavy makeup. This nickname was given to him by the newcomers he led many years ago, and it had followed him throughout his career. As his name implied, he was a rigid, strict, eager for quick success, and extremely difficult to get along with. But after all, he was the chief editor, and there were many people who flattered him. He liked girls from X university, and he liked girls with heavy makeup. As long as they met these two criteria, they would become his assistant in most cases. All right, there was one more thing. He liked the new and hated the old. Chief Editor Luo, you got off work early today. Wanda took the lead to greet her, but the two assistants standing behind her didn't take the initiative to talk to her. Luo Qingshun responded faintly and didn't say much. When the elevator reached the 15th floor, the door opened again with a ding. The one who walked in was the chief editor of Team C, Lin Miao. As a chief editor, she wasn't someone to be trifled with. Lin Miao was a person who loved to bootlick and would do anything for the sake of her own benefits. She was jealous and narrow-minded, a man who charmed thousands of girls. On the surface, Sakura magazine was harmonious, but in fact, it was a tripartite situation. Looks like you guys aren't diligent enough, getting off work so early. Lin Miao's voice was a bit sharp. Compared to Wang De's mockery, she hated Lin Miao's sarcasm more. This month's results are good. Double your reading and rating. Luo Qingshun put her hands in her coat pockets and looked forward with a cold face. If I don't slack off, the tripartite situation will soon end. Lin Miao heard this, and her face instantly turned red. She was clearly a veteran of Sakura magazine, the chief editor who had worked in this company for 10 years. 10 years. This number was astronomical for a woman. She was 29 years old this year and had dedicated all her youth to this company. She must become the chief editor of Sakura magazine this year. For the past few years, Sakura magazine had been without a chief editor. The main reason was that the boss and the board of directors couldn't make a choice between Luo Qingshun, Lin Miao, and Wang De. According to the magazine's sales volume and the reader's love, the position of the editor-in-chief would definitely belong to Luo Qingshun. However, Wang De had a wide range of abilities. Whether it was a youth theme, an urban theme, or even a supernatural science fiction theme, Wang De was able to handle them all. Although it wasn't top-notch, it was at least outstanding. As for Lin Miao, he had always been the weakest of the three. Her main advantage was that she was a senior figure in Sakura magazine. Chief Editor Luo, don't be too proud. You should have heard that Sakura magazine has been bought by a QC from the United States. From next Monday, the world will change hands. Lin Miao looked a little smug. Luo Qingshun and Wang De looked at each other and understood a little. It seemed that Lin Miao had hooked up with the people in M Company. Otherwise, how could she be so calm and complacent? With a ding sound, the elevator reached the first floor. Luo Qingshun looked over and curled her lips into a smile. Then I wish you success in hugging a thigh. Chapter 1941. What's wrong? Why do you look so angry? He looked at her face and pretended to be wronged. He said, Why are you so angry when you come out to eat with me? The green light is green. Luo Qingshun pointed to the front and then rested her chin on her right hand. She said, I always feel that someone else has beaten me to it. I don't feel comfortable. My lady, you are fast, accurate, and ruthless in the workplace. You can immediately judge whether an article will be popular or not after you read it. You are so fast. How can someone beat you to it? He chuckled with a touch of gentleness in his eyes. In fact, they had no contact after she came to the hospital to see him for the last time 3 years ago. He was very clear that the word love could not be related between him and her. But in the end, he was reluctant to let her go. Even if they could only be friends, it did not matter in his heart. Later, He wrote something on the internet and submitted it to her one by one. Most of the manuscripts were drowned in her mailbox until he wrote a story about friendship and love called The Deepest Love is the Most Silent. The story in the article was not similar to the story between her and He Jinyin, but the feeling was so similar. She wanted to love, but dared not to love. She wanted to move forward, but dared not move forward. She could only stand at the edge of the love line, silently watching and silently guarding. It was because of this article that Luo Qingshan replied to Fong He. When she saw the personal information sent by Fong He, she was very surprised. She did not expect that there would be an intersection between them. Then she should not break up with He Jinyin so easily. After all, they were the most important people in each other's lives, even if they were not lovers. Do you know the company, QC? Luo Qingshan's eyebrows moved slightly. She said, "It bought our company. Doesn't everyone in the circle know about it?" Fong He shrugged and said, "Queen, Crown. It was registered in the United States 3 years ago. The company started to develop software. It rose at the beginning of this year and became a giant company." Queen Crown. Luo Qingshan frowned and said, "The Emperor's Crown? How could someone come up with such a strange name? TSK. Such a famous new giant company is buying Sakura magazine at a high price. This is a good thing that fell from the sky." Fong He stopped the car in front of a food stall. He looked at her and said, "After next week, your salary may increase by several times." "Really?" Luo Qingshan's gloomy face instantly became as bright as a sunflower when she heard the words her salary has increased by several times. "Your expression." Fong He's mouth twitched a little awkwardly and said softly, "Do you have to be so direct? I suddenly feel that Sakura's original boss and board of directors are really incompetent. I work myself to death for a salary of only 10,000 a month. In a first-tier city like this, I can't even afford to eat." Luo Qingshan said as she looked out the window and snorted, "You brought me here to eat this." "Wow." Fong He pretended to be aggrieved and said, "You are my editor, but you have no money. I, a poor writer, have the money to eat this. You, don't be angry. Next week, when the new boss and the board of directors officially move into Sakura, you can flatter any one of them, and I guarantee that your salary will be increased by 10 times. Luo Qingshan heard this and rolled her eyes at him. She said, "Thank you. If I am demoted, I will take your job. No one will have a good time." Chapter 1942. She had to admit that this food stall was really good. The barbecue belonged to the seafood category, and this place was close to the sea, so the ingredients were very fresh. "By the way, my sister is getting married." Fong He took a sip of beer, looked at her, and asked, "What about you?" Luo Qingshan had just taken a bite of scallop, and she almost choked on Fong He's words. The next second, she nodded slightly, rolled her eyes at him, and said, "You don't need to inform me that your sister is getting married." At the same time, she didn't forget to add, "By the way, you don't need to worry about me." She was angry when she mentioned Fong Xiaojing. If it weren't for her stupid behavior, she and He Jinyin might have already. When this sentence flashed in her mind, she inexplicably felt sad. Some things seemed to have happened a long time ago, but as long as she recalled a little, it seemed to have happened yesterday. "In fact, my sister told me later about you and He Jinyin." Stop. Luo Qingshan raised her eyes and said, "If you still want to have a happy birthday, I advise you to stop talking." Fong He saw her serious face and hurriedly closed his mouth. Moreover, his right hand made an expression of sewing up his mouth. Luo Qingshan looked at him innocently, put a half-baked green bean in front of him, and said, "So, which rich man did your sister marry? How do you know?" Fong He looked at Luo Qingshan with some surprise. After all, he always thought that his sister would marry a man as handsome as He Jinyin. He never thought that his cousin-in-law turned out to be a man in his early 30s who had remarried. "Do you want to know why?" Luo Qingshan raised her eyebrows, and a touch of pride flashed in her eyes. Fong He nodded his head seriously, looking like a curious child with a strong thirst for knowledge. Luo Qingshan smiled and said, "Because of vanity." She should know better than Fong He what kind of person Fong Xiaojing was. Back then, She probably liked Eugenian, but she did not completely reject Suzian. She loved vanity and the feeling of being high and mighty. This kind of love allowed her to make many different choices. It had nothing to do with love. As long as she was admired by others, she would feel happy. Although Fong, he was speechless, he had to admit that what Luo Qingshan said was quite reasonable. He raised his can of beer and said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. Cheers to my birthday." Luo Qingshan opens the can with a click. She squints and says, "For my wait." "You're still planning to wait?" Fong, he clicked his tongue and shook his head. "Will he come back?" "I don't know." Luo Qingshan drank half a can of beer in one breath. A touch of Liguang flashed in her clear eyes. She said, "Maybe, maybe not." This was a long wait, an endless wait. Ahem, Fong, he cleared his throat and said in a joking tone, "What's there to wait for? Life is like this, back and forth. Maybe the best one is by your side." Luo Qingshan heard this and said with a smile, "Your words are quite reasonable." Right, I'm so handsome, elegant, and talented, but Luo Qingshan cut off his boasting without any hesitation and said with a smile, "To me, it was very reasonable in the past." Chapter 1943. It was another quiet night. When she got home, it was already 1:30 in the morning. She poured herself a cup of hot water and sat in front of her desk. She subconsciously looked at the drawer on her right. She hadn't looked at the things in there for a long time. She didn't know why, but she suddenly wanted to take it out and look at it again. Click! The drawer was opened. She saw a clean test paper that was filled with the faint fragrance of gardenias. It wasn't because the test paper was fragrant, but because she had put a lot of gardenias in the drawer. She didn't know why, but the fragrance of gardenias always reminded her of the farewell that day. The hot and warm hug. In fact, she finally discovered the secret of this test paper when she was sunbathing on the balcony on a sunny afternoon. It was a string of information that hackers usually used in Morse code. The left line was 746-42436. The right line was 962464. He-Jinyan was indeed He-Jinyan. He used his own way to express the words buried in his heart in the most complicated way. Luo Qingshan thought that if she wasn't quite proficient in mathematics, she wouldn't have been able to understand the meaning of his words. How much of a loss would it be if she deducted 90 marks for nothing? He-Jinyan, she took a deep breath. Her eyebrows trembled as she looked at her test paper and said, "Come back. No matter when, I'll wait for you here." Beep, 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 beep. She didn't know that as soon as she finished speaking, her phone started vibrating crazily. It wasn't a phone call or a text message. It could only be WeChat. But her WeChat blocked all sounds. The next second, she quickly picked up her phone and unlocked the screen with trembling fingers. She seemed to know why her phone was vibrating so much. She had used a plug-in to set up a script. As soon as the messages she sent to He-Jinyan were read, her phone would vibrate immediately. Over the years, she had sent over 1,000 messages. Every time she felt lost and lonely, every time she felt sad, or every night she felt lonely. However, those messages she sent were like stones sinking into the sea. She didn't get any response at all. But today, Luo Qingshan quickly pressed a series of numbers that she had memorized by heart, but the moment she pressed the play button, she hesitated. It had been 3 years. Since he hadn't died, since he was still alive. Why? Why didn't she come looking for him? In a fit of anger, she turned on the missed call notification and then angrily turned off her phone. After that, she went to take a shower. She thought that she could have a good night's sleep, but the next day, countless calls came in. Unexpectedly, right after taking a shower, she tossed and turned on the bed for about 30 seconds. She decided to turn on the computer. She was actually a little nervous when she saw the screen light up. But there was even more anticipation. But life was like that. It would always surprise you when you didn't care, and pour cold water on you when you were full of expectations. I want you to know that life is not full of surprises, but disappointment. He-Jinyan did not call her, and he only accepted her WeChat messages. He did not respond to her messages. After a sleepless night, his mind was filled with thousands of thoughts, but he could not find an answer. At the same time, in a 5-star hotel, The young man sitting in front of his desk looked at his WeChat seriously. He didn't want to miss a single message. Chapter 1944. He was more anxious than anyone else in these 3 years because he knew someone was waiting for him. His father was called Higu, a very powerful entrepreneur. When he was still a child, he had already conquered the world in City A. Later, he went to the United States with his mother to develop. Little did he know that his peers were jealous and killed him. His parents had been shot to death. He had spent 3 years collecting evidence and making a comeback with his own abilities. Finally, in the 3rd year, he completed both of his tasks. The assassin hired by his peers was caught in another case and confessed the mastermind of the previous case. Only then was his parents buried. There were many reasons why he did not contact her in these 3 years. The most important reason was for her safety. His peers, who could hire assassins out of jealousy, must be watching him more closely than anyone else. In the early days of his business, he and a few of his father's confidants lived under the bridge while eating bread. It was not because they were poor, but to avoid being assassinated. This kind of life could not be explained in a few words, and he would never tell her. Knock, 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 come in. He put down his phone, but there was still a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. A middle-aged man in his early 40s walked into the room. His name was Chun-Li. He was slightly stunned when he saw He Jin-yin, then said, "I've never seen President He in such a good mood. It seems that you miss your country." "Well, I'm finally home." He nodded slightly, a faint light flashing in his beautiful eyes. "What's the matter?" "It's about Sakura magazine, the market research in recent years, and the company's potential. No need." He Jin-yin narrowed his eyes and said with absolute certainty, "No matter what kind of comprehensive data, I've decided to buy this company at a high price." Chun-Li had been following him for the past 3 years. He had to admit that he was better than his father. In the face of important decisions, he was always quick, accurate, and ruthless. But this time, the acquisition of Sakura magazine was a little capricious. Not to mention that this company was not even one of the top 10 well-known magazines in City A. The internal division of labor within the board of directors was unclear and the data was mediocre. In the United States, such a company was even worse than their lowest-ranked subsidiary. In fact, he did not understand why He Jin-yin wanted to acquire such a company and at such a high price. But after all, He Jin-yin was the one who built the world of QC. Even if he had doubts in his heart, he would at most ask once and not a second time. Understood. The information is complete. Sakura Blossom's chairman wants to sign the contract as soon as possible. Okay, tomorrow. Chun-Li was taken aback, but he immediately nodded and said, "Okay." Perhaps he had some doubts before, but now he had no doubts at all. After all, Cherry Blossoms was the first company that He Jin-yin was so determined to acquire. There must be other reasons that he did not know. Early the next morning, He Jin-yin signed a contract with Sakura's boss at the hotel. The boss had a smile on his face the whole time and kept flattering him. Most of the time, He Jin-yin just smiled faintly until he boasted, "Our company is said to be full of talented people. There are countless people who have a discerning eye for talent." She's only in her early 20s, but she's already become the chief editor. Chapter 1945. The boss of Sakura Blossoms, who was still boasting, was stunned. He just wanted to flatter, but he didn't expect to get a response. Everyone's eyes fell on He Jin-yin. He picked up a pen and signed his name on the acquisition agreement. Then he looked up and said, "I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Queen has booked the whole place downstairs. Everyone can stay and enjoy the dinner." "Thank you for your hospitality, President He." The former boss of Sakura Blossoms took the lead to flatter, and then several members of the board of directors followed. This was a dinner party, which was not something ordinary people could do. Naturally, they had to stay and enjoy it. He Jin-yin nodded lightly, got up, and left the venue. Unknowingly, City A entered deep winter again. Standing at the door of the hotel, He Jin-yin nodded slightly and watched the large snowflakes falling. The air was filled with a touch of desolation. Li Guang flashed in his eyes. He narrowed his eyes and murmured, "Ching-chun, I'm back." He didn't sleep last night, reading the messages she sent him over and over again. Some were happy, some were sad, some were angry, and most of them were lonely, She seemed to have lived a peaceful life in the past 3 years, but he couldn't understand the anxiety in her heart. Not everyone could wait endlessly. He understood her uneasiness. He hoped that he could still work hard and use all his strength and means to return to her. Then, he would stay with her forever, Monday, 8:30 in the morning. All the employees of Sakura Blossoms were waiting for the arrival of the new boss. Wangda and Lin Miao were dressed very formally. As if they were waiting to be visited, they held their heads high and kept themselves in the best state at all times. These days, Luo Qingxin's thoughts were drifting. The most important reason was that the phone number she knew by heart was turned off. Yes, when the man didn't respond, she couldn't help dialing the phone. As a result, a series of system-like prompts made her mood fall to the bottom. I'm really sorry. I'm afraid the editor-in-chief position is mine. Lin Miao put on a layer of lipstick again, touched her big golden earrings, and said, "But don't be discouraged. I'm a fair person and will give you a chance. It's really funny. The meeting hasn't started yet, and you're already fantasizing." Wangda snorted. Whether it's ability or talent, the editor-in-chief position can't fall on your head. For Wangda, although the competition was fierce, he wasn't a fool. In terms of competitors, Luo Qingchun was more troublesome than Lin Miao. After all, she really had the ability to recognize heroes. Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes to look at Lin Miao. Her expression was the same as that day in the elevator. For him to be so confident in such a situation, he must have used some connections. MMP, she had already lost at the start of the competition. Did she really have to do as Fong he said and find someone to suck up to in order to get the position of chief editor? Before she could finish her thoughts, she had already followed the crowd into the conference room. At 9 o'clock sharp, she officially saw the representative from QC, Chun-Li. Next to him was a 17 or 18-year-old boy. He was dressed well, but his insufferably arrogant expression made her a little uncomfortable. Luo Qingxin's eyes were always on the boy, so the moment he came in, she could clearly feel that he was looking in Lin Miao's direction. Chapter 1946. Wangda also saw this scene. He glanced at Luo Qingxin symbolically, as if he was looking for someone on the same side. Luo Qingxin frowned slightly, and Wangda shook his head at her. She probably knew what he meant. After all, if one of the three succeeded, their status in Cherry Blossoms would plummet. Let's not talk about the long term. Just the next month's issue of A and B magazines will definitely be affected. Lin Miao watched Wangda desperately winking at Luo Qingxin, and a disdainful smile appeared on her lips. She still didn't panic. After all, she had been prepared since the day she heard the news. For example, her biological sister Lin Shan and Chun Li's nephew Qindong had met by chance. At the same time, she also learned that QC had bought Cherry Blossoms at a high price because the rich boss had done it on a whim. They had so many business opportunities and resources in the United States that they didn't care who was the chief editor of this small magazine company. Qindong told her that she didn't have to worry about the chief editor. His uncle had always doted on him. As long as he said the word, such a small matter was nothing. Therefore, she still felt that the position of chief editor was in the bag, and she had no fear at all. "Hello, everyone. I'm Chun-Li, the administrative director of the acquisition of Cherry Blossoms." For the next hour, Chun-Li explained the future development of the company and the changes in salary. Fonny was right. They did increase the processing fee, and it was a lot. Although it wasn't as exaggerated as 10 times, it was at least 2 or 3 times. As the saying went, in many cases, money was omnipotent. It was precisely because the salary increase was high enough that everyone cherished this job more. Then, the competition would be even more intense. Luo Qingxin could feel from Chun-Li's words that he was a man of substance and depth. He didn't seem like someone who would abuse his power. If he really did that, there were only 2 possibilities. First, he was pretending to be a man of substance. Second, Cherry Blossoms was too insignificant to QC, so insignificant that Chun-Li thought he was only doing a small favor, and it didn't matter at all. An hour later, the meeting ended. Chun-Li did not announce the selection of the chief editor at the meeting, but after the meeting ended, he called Lin Miao into his office alone. Luo Qingshun, together with several trusted subordinates and Wang's trusted subordinates, gathered in the pantry. For the first time, he felt that he was standing in the position of a non-protagonist, as if he was a bystander who was nagging about the protagonist. Editor Luo, since the situation is so tricky now, I won't beat around the bush. Wanda rubbed his chin and frowned. I can give up the position of editor-in-chief. I can take a step back and let you be the editor-in-chief. But I can't accept Lin Miao as editor-in-chief. Luo Qingxin frowned and took a sip of coffee. I'm surprised that Chief Editor Wang is suddenly so righteous. Actually, she was just saying the word surprised. Wanda was different from Lin Miao, at least in the field of words. He was much more talented than her. Chapter 1947. At the same time, in Chun Li's temporary office, Lin Miao had a smile on her face from the beginning to the end. She held her head high and puffed her chest out to maintain her best state at all times. Chun Li, on the other hand, was seriously flipping through Lin Miao's personal information. His focused look made Lin Miao a little uneasy. Chen Dong gave her a look, indicating for her to be at ease. Uncle, Annie Lin is really outstanding. Moreover, she's the oldest employee in Cherry Blossoms. Chen Dong echoed from the side and kept praising her. Whether it's her ability or the overall factors, the position of chief editor should belong to her. Chun Li frowned slightly when he heard that. He slowly closed Lin Miao's information and looked at her. Chief Editor Lin, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. No. Lin Miao hurriedly shook her head and said, It's my duty. He nodded. There was a hint of sharpness in his eyes as he said, Then I'll get straight to the point. After being by He Jinyan's side for so many years, he had almost reached the point of perfection in reading people. Lin Miao's information seemed to be quite good, but there was nothing outstanding about her. The only thing that made her better than others was her seniority. She had indeed helped Cherry Blossoms conquer the world. There was nothing wrong with that. Please go ahead. Lin Miao's expression changed. She began to feel uneasy again. In terms of aptitude and ability, the position of chief editor definitely won't fall to you. Chun Li was very direct. He did not beat around the bush at all. Lin Miao's heart trembled when she heard that. Uncle, don't say anything first. Chun Li continued, but I can give you the position of chief editor. Firstly, our general group's acquisition of Cherry Blossoms was purely to test the waters in City A. It's not important. Secondly, since your sister and my nephew are already lovers, there's nothing wrong with me doing a small favor. Yes. You're right, Chief Chen. Lin Miao was overjoyed. She nodded and bowed. I'll definitely work harder. I won't disappoint you. It doesn't matter if I'm disappointed or not. Chun Li shook his head and said, What's important is that the chief editors of the other two groups don't look ordinary. The competition is fierce. I hope you cherish this opportunity. As soon as he finished speaking, Chun Li glanced at his nephew and frowned slightly. Come back early tonight. Aunt Lin bought your favorite king crab. Got it, Uncle. Chen Dong smiled and took his hand. Uncle is still the best to me. In the pantry, with a click, the door of the temporary office was opened. Luo Qingxun and Wang De looked in that direction at the same time. Lin Miao walked out with a proud smile. She seemed to be in a good mood. I think she should have already secured the position of chief editor. Luo Qingxun narrowed her eyes and snorted. What a world of power! She was actually the first to get on his good side. This Chun Li didn't look like someone who couldn't distinguish between public and private matters. Who would have thought that he would be worse than a beast when he couldn't distinguish between public and private matters? Then what should we do? Wang seemed a little anxious. While pacing back and forth, he looked at Luo Qingxun and asked, Don't tell me I'll have to work under her in the future. What else can we do? Luo Qingxun narrowed her cold eyes and snorted. Write a resignation letter. Throw it directly in her face during the announcement meeting tomorrow. Chapter 1948. Luo Qingxun was absent-minded the whole day. She didn't look at any manuscripts and didn't discover a single one. She calculated the resources and authors in her hands. Even if she opened a social media account, it wouldn't be a big problem. She didn't expect that after 3 years of hard work, she couldn't even compare to a bootlicker. Ding-ling, a cell phone rang. Luo Qingchun didn't even look and could guess who it was. After all, in this lonely city, other than Yutang, she only had one friend, Fong He. Big editor, I've paid for the manuscript. Do you want to come out for a meal? Fong He was as bright as always. His tone was particularly cheerful when he spoke. Luo Qingchun laughed 3 times in a row and then said, "If it's not a 5-star hotel this time, if you want to contact me in the future, please use a message in a bottle." Fong He on the other side of the phone obviously took a breath of cold air. He only saw him clear his throat and said, "It's definitely a 5-star hotel, the best 5-star hotel in a city. I'll give you half an hour to pick me up. No. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Sitting in Fong He's Porsche, Luo Qingchun gradually calmed down. In fact, it didn't matter how many friends you had. 1 or 2 sincere friends were enough. In the past few years, she also saw the changes in Fong He. Although sometimes he still liked to pick up girls, he was no longer the young and frivolous Fong He. She didn't know if it was the world of words that made him steady or if it was the growth of age that made him mature. She only knew that this Fong He was much more dazzling than the insufferably arrogant appearance of the past. What's wrong? Could it be that the new boss didn't give you a raise and still squeezed you? Fong He could probably guess that the reason for her bad mood was because of the company's changes, but he couldn't guess what it was specifically. My salary was raised. Luo Qingchun held her chin with her right hand and pursed her lips, and it increased a lot. Then what are you unhappy about? Because I'm going to resign. In the best 5-star hotel in a city, Fong He ordered the most expensive meal for 2 and opened a bottle of 1963 Lafite. It seems that you've really put in a lot of effort this time. Luo Qingchun took a sip of red wine and smiled. This wine is good. My great editor, are you really going to resign? Have you decided? Fong He looked at him and said, "What happened? Even a lazy person like you is planning to resign." Luo Qingchun heard this, and her heart was filled with anger. In a fit of anger, she downed the red wine in the glass and said, "Because the new director is blind. He actually let Lin Miao be the managing editor. Do you think his eyes were shot by a cannon?" Seeing Luo Qingchun so excited, Fong He was stunned. At this moment, he suddenly understood that women were creatures that could not be offended, because she looked especially scary when she was angry. So you plan to resign? Of course. Luo Qingchun rolled her eyes at him and said, "You're such a leader who can't distinguish between public and private affairs. Why don't you resign for the new year? It seems that the new year is coming." Fong He shook his head hurriedly and said, No, of course I'm going to resign. As the saying goes, don't fight for the bread, fight for the pride. You're so excellent that you'll be able to find talent anywhere. Listening to Fong He's flattery, Luo Qingchun didn't feel so bad. Chapter 1949. At the same time, in the same hotel, a young man in a black suit slowly walked down the stairs. He narrowed his eyes and fixed his beautiful eyes on one of the tables in the restaurant on the first floor. The girl was wearing a white shirt, and her long curly hair set off her clear eyes. Sitting opposite her was a young man in a coffee-colored sweater. His every movement was full of youthful sunshine. He knew this person. The first time he knew the meaning of the word comparison came from this young man. At that time, he saw with his own eyes that this young man could desperately express his love for Luo Qingchun, even though he didn't know her. He used all his strength, but he couldn't do anything. He thought too much, worried too much, expected too much, feared too much. Because of these too many things, he had to be very careful with his confession. 3 years had passed. He didn't know whether she understood his confession or not. He also didn't know the relationship between her and the young man sitting in front of her now. He only knew that he had gritted his teeth and endured these 3 years so that he could once again return to her side in a dazzling light. Those days when he worked day and night and forgot to eat and sleep. Those days when he was targeted and shot several times. Those days when his home was under the bridge, he would never let her know, and she would never understand. "President He, is there anything I can help you with?" A sweet-looking hotel manager saw Jin Yin standing there for a long time, so she came forward and asked. As the president of QC, The man who booked all the suites on the highest floor of the hotel naturally had to be paid special attention to. Nothing. Give me a bottle of red wine from that table and buy me a bouquet of gardenia. He nodded slightly, calm and gentlemanly. Okay. On the other side, Luo Qingshun, who was eating steak and drinking wine, suddenly heard a sentence from the waiter next to her, which made her stunned. I want a bottle of red wine like table 36 and a bouquet of gardenia from the back garden. The waiter spoke very fast, but she still heard it clearly. What's wrong? He saw her a little flustered, so he blinked and asked. In the next second, Luo Qingshun abruptly stood up and scanned the surroundings as fast as she could, urgently searching for a familiar, yet unfamiliar figure. But in the vast sea of people, she couldn't find him. What happened? He looked at her nervous expression. After swallowing a big mouthful of beef, he stood up and pressed her shoulder. Sit down first. Many people are looking at you. He's back. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath. A faint liguang flashed through her clear eyes. She pursed her lips and murmured in a trembling voice, but why didn't he appear? Number 36 was their table, and gardenia was his favorite flower. It was impossible for there to be such a coincidence. Those WeChat messages that were suddenly accepted. And what happened tonight? Who? He frowned. His expression became very serious as he looked at him and said, Who's back? All these years, he had never seen her so nervous. This was the first time. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath. Her eyes were bloodshot and shimmering with tears. She looked at He in front of her and said, He is back. Chapter 1950. When she got home, it was already late at night. He accompanied her to ask the waiter about the guest who ordered the same red wine as the 36 tables. But because of the guest's privacy, they didn't get an answer. After taking a shower, she didn't feel sleepy at all. Too many things happened recently, so she couldn't calm down and think. There was only one question in her mind. Since came back, why didn't he come to find her? She thought it was the most likely answer, but she didn't want to admit it. He had someone he liked, and he even had his own family. But the favorability obviously didn't decrease. Under the situation where the host has completed any task, there's a certain possibility that the favorability will not change. What did it mean? What did it mean? What did it mean? Luo Qingshun asked the system 3 times in a row, but the system didn't respond. She knew it was deliberately pretending to be dead. She didn't know why, but the system's deliberate pretending to be dead made her feel less depressed, because to a certain extent, she understood her system. The next day, Luo Qingshun wore a black Versace limited edition pajamas, with a crown hairpin on her long curly hair. There were 2 pieces of paper in her classic LV backpack, which came from a resignation letter, full of literary talent. The moment she walked into the company, she felt that she attracted countless people's attention. Suddenly, she felt like time went back to 3 years ago. When she was at university, she was the prettiest girl in the computer science department, and that boy was the most handsome boy in the school. Time passed, and she had become the chief editor of a magazine. But the person in her position was not the boy at that time, but a person she hated. Master, do you have to be so queen-like today? Her chief disciple, young man, walked over, followed her, and said while quickly following her footsteps, As the saying goes, you can't lose the battle. Luo Qingshun touched the diamond earrings on her ears and said, If that kind of person can be the chief editor, I can be the chairman. In the past, Luo Qingshun might not have understood the meaning of the idiom a prophecy comes true, but after today, she finally understood. Ding! The elevator door opened. Luo Qingshun was the first to enter. She nodded slightly and looked at Lin Miao, who was running towards the elevator. Without saying a word, she pressed the button to close the elevator door. It took Lin Miao a full 15 minutes to get to the office. As soon as she entered the office, she rushed directly to Luo Qingshun's office in a huff. That aura scared the entire hall into a deathly silence. Luo Qingshun, what do you mean by that? Lin Miao directly pushed the door open and entered. She didn't even bother with basic etiquette and directly called out her full name, as if she was already her immediate superior at this moment. In the office, Luo Qingchun was leaning on the sofa and chatting with young man. Although Lin Miao was very loud when she rushed in, she was not frightened at all. Luo Qingchun took a sip of coffee and tapped the sofa with her right hand habitually. Just now? What just now? Don't play dumb with me. Lin Miao was even angrier when she saw how carefree she was. She pointed at her and said, "You clearly saw me running to the elevator. It was so empty inside, but you pressed the button to close the door. Did you do it on purpose?" Chapter 1951. Lin Miao clearly didn't expect Luo Qingchun to answer her like this. After all, she had been called to the director's office yesterday. Although the official documents and regular meetings hadn't been announced yet, most of the people in Cherry Blossoms already knew. The tripartite balance of power that had lasted for more than a year was about to be settled. She would be the best candidate for the editor-in-chief position, and the other two could only listen to her orders and arrangements. Me? Luo Qingchun pointed at the clock and said, "Lin Miao, if you don't have anything else to say, you can leave. My office really doesn't welcome you." Since the other party had called her by her full name, she naturally had to call her back. If someone like her were to suffer a loss when it came to insulting others, she would feel terrible. "Haha," Lin Miao laughed awkwardly and said, "You have guts. No matter how much you pretend to be stupid, you have to face reality." At this moment, Lin Miao's mind couldn't help but picture the scene of her oppressing Luo Qingchun in the future. The respect she hadn't received in the past, she would take it all back in the future. Face reality? Luo Qingchun narrowed her cold eyes and shrugged. "The reality is that so far, 9 magazines in this circle have invited me to change jobs with 3 times the salary. And I have much more resources than you do. Come on, face it head on." At first, she just wanted to suppress Lin Miao. So what if she became the enemy of all of Cherry Blossoms? Lin Miao was completely stunned by Luo Qingchun's words. She didn't expect her to change jobs at this point. Thinking about it, she did have the ability to identify fine horses. She could shine wherever she went. Damn it, then wouldn't she have a chance to oppress her? "You actually want to resign?" Lin Miao took a deep breath and looked at her. "You have to think carefully. You haven't left anything in Cherry Blossoms for so many years. Of course not." Luo Qingchun smiled indifferently and said, "I'm not like you. You've been working in one industry for 10 years and haven't improved at all. When it came to insulting others, one had to hit their sore spot. Lin Miao's sore spot happened to be right here. Don't say that she's ruthless. As the saying goes, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll definitely repay them tenfold." Even if Lin Miao had gotten in through the back door, it was fine as long as she continued on her path. She even specially came over to find trouble with her and mock her. Then she wouldn't be happy. "Luo Qingchun." Lin Miao's voice was trembling as she called out. Her eyes were red as she pointed at her nose and said, You, don't be so smug. You're such a talkative woman. Serves you right that no man would dare to want you." Lin Miao's retort was really 666. She couldn't win against her on professional topics, so she directly attacked her personally. Interesting, but why didn't she take a look at herself before attacking others? "Miss Lin Miao, may I ask where your man is?" Luo Qingchun touched her ear and curled her lips into a smile. "If I remember correctly, you're about to turn 30. The flowers I receive every week are enough to prove that I can make do with a little effort. But what about you?" Hiss! The large group of onlookers outside the office sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 1952. In a split second, Lin Miao couldn't control herself at all. She raised her right hand and rushed forward, intending to slap Luo Qingchun. Little did she know that the other party was even faster and firmly grabbed her wrist. Lin Miao smiled and said, "Sorry, I'm a 10th-degree black belt. If you want to hit me, it'll be too late in your next life." Young man, who was sitting next to her, covered her mouth with both hands and looked at Luo Qingchun like a little fangirl. Master was indeed master. No matter from which angle, she was so dazzling. "What are you all doing?" A strange low voice sounded. Everyone's eyes fell on Chun-Li at the door. Lin Miao's ferocious expression instantly changed. Her mouth quickly raised into a bright smile. She turned to look at Chun-Li and said, "Good morning, Director. I'm discussing the theme of next month's magazine with Chief Editor Luo." She couldn't panic. It wasn't easy for her to get this opportunity. She couldn't lose it because of Luo Qingshun. Okay. Chun-Li's expression changed slightly. He cleared his throat and said, "Our chairman will come over during the regular meeting later. Everyone get ready. No matter what private matter it is, let's put it aside for now." Chun-Li naturally heard Lin Miao's loud voice just now. He suddenly had some doubts. Wasn't it too quick to agree to the editor-in-chief position? After all, in the situation just now, it was obvious that the girl named Luo Qingshun was more suitable to be the editor-in-chief. When encountering a major event, no matter how confident you were, you had to show it on the surface. Often, many decisions were made in a single thought. With courage and wisdom, you could definitely go further. After Chun-Li left the office, Lin Miao didn't forget to glare at Luo Qingshun fiercely and whispered, "Just you wait." "I'm waiting." Luo Qingshun looked at her leisurely smile and said, "I'm afraid that you'll only talk and wait until there's nothing else." At this moment, Lin Miao's entire face was completely red. Her hands were trembling unconsciously. Her heart was full of resentment, but she couldn't vent it. She could only endure it. She had already taken the editor-in-chief position, but she still couldn't be arrogant in front of Luo Qingshun. No, she could. She could be arrogant. As long as she announced her appointment as the editor-in-chief at the regular meeting later, she could rightfully assign Luo Qingshun to do anything. She could also take all the pages of page A at will. Cherry Blossoms had a rule that all high-ranking personnel would have to wait at least a month after handing in their resignation certificates. She still had a month's time to overtake her. After Lin Miao left, Luo Qingshun gave a cold snort. She walked to her desk and printed out the information on Lin Miao's life that she had organized a few days ago, backing it up on a USB drive. "Master, what are you doing?" "Of course it's to do things that harm others for my own benefit." Luo Qingshun shook the USB in her hand and said, "This kind of mediocre talent is useless to the magazine except for the role of leeching off the elders. It's better to analyze it with charts." "Wow, you got to expose her at the regular meeting later." Young man looked at her excitedly and said, "Master, you're so cool." "Of course. After all, we've been colleagues for so many years. It's not a bad idea to give her a surprise before resigning." Perhaps she didn't want to be so ruthless, but now it seemed. Chapter 1953. "But I've heard that the chairman of QC is a very scary person." Young man blinked and looked at her. "It's said that he's very powerful both in the United States and here. A person's ability is the same no matter where he is." Luo Qingshun patted young man's shoulder and said, "You have to listen to the words passed down by the seniors. Gold will shine no matter where it is. However, this chairman's vision might not be very good. Why did he choose Lin Miao as the chief editor? Did he get hit in the head by a truck? There was a generation gap between their ages, or maybe he liked to look at length of service instead of ability." An hour later, the company's broadcast gathered everyone for a regular meeting. Luo Qingshun went there early. Because she had decided to resign, she didn't follow up on many of the work. On the way to the conference room, she met the serious-looking Wang De. He looked up at Luo Qingshun and lowered his head resentfully. "Chief Editor Wang." Luo Qingshun saw that he had something to say, but was too embarrassed to say it, so she stopped him directly. Do you have something to say to me?" Wang De sighed deeply and said, "Chief Editor Luo, I went back last night and thought for a long time. In the end, I decided to stay." Hearing Wang De say this, she was a little surprised. After all, she didn't think much of a chief editor, but that chief editor was Lin Miao. This was unacceptable. "This company may be just an ordinary company to you, but to me," Wang De frowned and said, "it may be the same as Lin Miao. The only difference is that although I have power, I want it to get better and better." Luo Qingshun frowned slightly. She suddenly felt a sense of enterprise from Wang De, but she didn't know what to say at this moment. Seeing that she didn't speak, Wang De continued, "If you really resign, with Lin Miao's ability, Sakura will inevitably go downhill. And if I also leave, I'm afraid it will be difficult for it to rise. In fact, Wanda's words were reasonable. After all, she and he had more resources in their hands than Lin Miao. Once he left, he would take away a large amount of resources. In fact, that's your life. Don't regret your choice. Luo Qingshun chuckled and walked toward the conference room. She was indeed a talent scout, just like how she found Wanda much more pleasing to the eye than Lin Miao. 10 minutes later, the meeting began. Chun-Li spoke on the stage and announced some personnel changes. The position of chief editor of Cherry Blossoms has always been vacant. After analyzing the comprehensive data, the board of directors believes that Comrade Lin Miao is more qualified. The next second, Luo Qingshun directly stood up and said to all the executives in the conference room, "I have a simple PowerPoint presentation here. I hope Director Chun-Li can read it before we talk about the so-called comprehensive data." At this moment, Lin Miao's expression changed, and her hands began to tremble uncontrollably. "Editor Luo, this is..." In an instant, the darkened screen in the conference room lit up, and it directly switched to the PowerPoint presentation about Lin Miao's career that Luo Qingshun had compiled. Why did it suddenly turn on? Chun-Li was a little surprised. His nephew, Chun Dong, who was sitting on his right, hurriedly rushed forward to turn off the computer, but he didn't know that the mouse was completely out of control. Luo Qingshun gave a shrug and said with a smile, "I'm sorry. I forgot to tell everyone here that I majored in computer science in university, so I've already hacked this computer." What? Chapter 1954. She curled her lips into a confident smile. She was like a radiant queen, radiating a dazzling aura from head to toe. "Luo Qingshun, speak according to the situation. Don't embarrass yourself." Lin Miao gritted her teeth, her voice trembling. Luo Qingshun chuckled and said, "Please look at the screen." In the next 5 minutes, what she said could only be described as shocking. Lin Miao joined the company 10 years ago. You said that she was an old employee and that she worked hard even if she didn't make any contributions. I don't deny that. However, when you said that her overall ability was better than me and Chief Editor Wanda, I could only laugh. You're Chief Editor Luo, right? Your words sound sour. It can't be that you're jealous, right? Chen Dong knit his brows as he looked at Luo Qingshun with eyes filled with anger. His relationship with Lin Shan had developed well recently. That young lady was good-looking, and she was especially capable in some areas. They were in the honeymoon period. How could she? Luo Qingshun's eyebrows moved slightly. She put on her limited edition LV bag and walked to the podium. Are you jealous? Are you abusing your position for personal gain after listening to my analysis of the data? Chun-Li narrowed his eyes and looked in Luo Qingshun's direction. His eyes were filled with scrutiny. Chen Dong wanted to rush forward and grab Luo Qingshun's hand, but he was stopped by Chun-Li. "Uncle, she's definitely not someone you can handle." Chun-Li frowned and said, "Let's wait and see." Ahem. Luo Qingshun stood on the podium and cleared her throat. "I've analyzed Chief Editor Lin's overall ability in Cherry Blossoms. Since Chief Editor Lin joined Cherry Blossoms, she hasn't won the hottest magazine award. None of the newbies she's discovered have successfully entered the annual newcomer list. For an entire 10 minutes, Luo Qingshun had clearly analyzed Lin Miao's abilities. Everyone in the conference room was stunned. Listening to such a professional analysis, Lin Miao's ability was probably worse than an intern in Cherry Blossoms. How could such a person become the chief editor? If this wasn't done through the back door, it would be hard to believe. Luo Qingshun, you're the only one who can come up with such an analysis. If I were to analyze you, I could also analyze you to the point that there's nothing good about you." Lin Miao, who was sitting to the side, was so angry that her face was red. She pointed at Luo Qingshun's nose and roared, "You're welcome to analyze me." Luo Qingshun smiled and put the A4 paper in her bag on the table. She tapped the fingertips of her right hand and said, "But I'm afraid you won't have the chance." The 3 words resignation letter appeared on the A4 paper, representing her determination to leave. Chen Dong glanced at Lin Miao and saw that Chun-Li, who was standing beside him, had remained silent. She couldn't help but say since editor Luo has decided to resign, then you don't have to participate in our Sakura meeting." When everyone heard this, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. They felt that this was a scene of two armies facing off against each other. The dominant position on the field was constantly changing. The gossiping of the audience reached her ears. Although she really wanted to punch Qindong, she felt very pleased when she heard that most of the discussion was on her side. Actually, editor Luo is right. Chief editor Lin isn't as good as her and chief editor Wang. Shoo, you have to be quiet. Now that editor Luo has resigned, chief editor Lin will be in charge of cherry blossoms in the future. You have to take it easy. TSK. You clearly don't have the ability, yet you're afraid to admit it. Chapter 1955. You're right. Luo Qingchun narrowed her cold eyes, and her lips curled into a cold smile. Help me say hello to Lin Shan. Oh, by the way, I know more about her peach-colored lace than you do. Qindong's expression changed completely at the mention of Lin Shan's name. His gentlemanly face turned ferocious all of a sudden. If you're not Miss Luo Qingchun from our company, please leave our meeting room immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for suing you for stealing company secrets. Qindong's words were unpleasant. Chun-Li, who was standing next to him, did not stop him even though his expression did not look good. Luo Qingchun was about to retort when the door of the meeting room was opened with a bang. It was snowing lightly outside the window. The cold wind blew at the corner of her clothes. You're wrong about stealing company secrets. A cool voice was heard slowly and said with certainty. After all, editor Luo is the major shareholder of Cherry Blossoms. At that moment, everyone's eyes fell on He Jinyan. He was like a brilliant ray of light, once again snatching away her focus. Director, Qindong's voice was trembling. He was about to say something when Chun-Li stopped him. Director, my nephew is insensible. This matter hasn't been settled yet. Chun-Li, who had always been calm, panicked when faced with the sudden situation. After all, he had listened to He Jinyan's words just now. Luo Qingchun owned 70% of the company's shares. What was going on? Whether it's settled or not, Miss Luo Qingchun is not someone you can afford to offend. He Jinyan's gaze fell on Chun-Li as soon as he finished speaking. There was a faint coldness in his eyes. Chun-Li was stunned. He quickly lowered his head and said, Director, I didn't handle this matter well. He had been by He Jinyan's side for so many years. Naturally, he could feel the coldness in this genius young man's words. At that moment, Luo Qingchun felt a buzz in her head. She even forgot to turn around. He Jinyan. No matter where he went, his radiance overshadowed her. The young man who had been with her since they were young, but always existed in the black and white zone. Even if it was a confession, he still had to play a round of Morse code conversion. He had been missing for 3 whole years without any news. He had never looked for her again. Now, when he appeared in front of her again, what should she do? All of a sudden, her brain could no longer think. She could only listen to his indifferent voice. She kept telling herself that this was not a dream. Mr. He, let me introduce myself. I'm Lin Miao, the editor-in-chief of Cherry Blossoms. Without knowing what was going on, there was nothing wrong with sucking up first. Little did she know, He Jinyan looked at her coldly and said, I don't care who you are at all. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at each other and didn't dare to say anything. Lin Miao looked very embarrassed. She wanted to say something, but was completely suppressed by He Jinyan's aura. He stepped forward and stopped beside Luo Qingchun. He looked sideways at her red eyes and said softly, I'm back. She had imagined countless ways to meet him again, but she had never thought of what she should say to him. Chapter 1956. For a long time, there was silence in the air. He Jinyan gazed at her deeply. He did not dare to take a step forward, but he was also reluctant to take a step back. Just like before, he stood at a position that was neither close nor far from her. It was a gray area where one side was light and the other side was darkness. He once thought that the sentence they used to test might no longer be used now. More than friends, lovers, he could be her best friend in life, and he could also be the person she entrusted her life to. "You're back." In the silence, Luo Qingxun's clear voice slowly sounded. She turned her eyes slightly and said, "It's good that you're back." Countless things that she wanted to say flashed through her mind, but in the end, she erased them all. After all, what she wanted to say most was still, "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back." Waiting was a difficult journey back home. However, the reason why she could wait in the endless darkness was that there was a ray of light in her heart. Because she had a hope in her heart. Luo Qingxun could feel the surprise in He Jinyan's eyes when he looked at her. Then, there was a special tenderness in his eyes. He probably did not expect that she would say this to him. "Well, President He." Chun Dong saw that the atmosphere was a little strange, so he hurriedly said, "We've decided, shut up." Chun Li, who was standing aside, roared in a low voice. This was the first time in his life that he had been so fierce to his nephew. Even Chun Dong did not expect this to happen so often. He staggered back and almost lost his balance. His eyes were drifting as he said, Uncle, did I say something wrong?" "Of course you didn't say anything wrong." He Jinyan smiled and sat down in the middle of the meeting room. He said, "You can say whatever you want to say. I'm just here to listen." Luo Qingxun heard this and turned around. She frowned and looked at He Jinyan. There was a faint smile in his eyes, as if he was waiting to watch a show. When Luo Qingxun was about to say something, Lin Miao beat her to it. She didn't quite understand what He Jinyan meant when he said, "No matter what the conclusion is, Miss Luo Qingxun is not someone you can afford to offend." But she knew that if she didn't say anything now, she might not have the chance. Therefore, she could only give a try. "Actually, we were just discussing personnel changes. I'm really ashamed to have troubled you," Lin Miao said respectfully. "Speaking of the position of chief editor, the three of us have been competing for it all these years. It's always hard to determine a winner among experts." When Lin Miao said this, Luo Qingxun couldn't help but shrug. She thought to herself, "You're really thick-skinned. Don't you know whether you can win or lose?" Lin Miao continued, "But this time, Director Chun appointed me to this position based on my comprehensive ability in all aspects. Actually, I'm quite afraid." Luo Qingxun crossed her arms and rolled her eyes disdainfully. She murmured, "You're so happy that you're like a blooming peony. Why do you have to say that you're afraid?" The meeting room was very quiet. Although Luo Qingxun didn't speak very loudly, she didn't deliberately lower her voice. After all, in her dictionary, there was only positive and positive. Chapter 1957. Your overall abilities. I think that according to the PowerPoint presentation just now, everyone should be clear on it. Luo Qingxun gave a shrug. "Not to mention, you don't have many minutes to be proud." Although she was surprised that the chairman of QC was He Jinyan, she was not surprised for a long time. After all, with his high IQ, it was not impossible for him to rise rapidly in a short time. "I'm talking to you nicely. You're just a little girl. Why are you so aggressive?" Lin Miao deliberately said those words in an attempt to show her generosity in front of He Jinyan. After all, as a leader, it was very important to be magnanimous. I think I know what you mean." He Jinyan saw that she was bullying Luo Qingxun in another way, so he spoke up without any hesitation. He wanted to let her feel comfortable before he said the following words, but he really didn't want her to be bullied by anyone. Even if it was just a sentence, he didn't want to, "President He, as your subordinate, I'm very happy that you can understand." Lin Miao seemed to see the dawn of hope, so she hurriedly bowed and echoed. The next second, He Jinyan said, "As for the position of editor-in-chief, I believe in Chun Li's vision." When he said this, everyone was surprised. They always thought that Luo Qingxun had the upper hand because they were familiar with each other. They didn't expect that He Jinyan's words would be on Lin Miao's side. What's going on? Is there a big reversal of the ending? It's more than a reversal. Look at Lin Miao. She wants to laugh, but doesn't dare to. It's very annoying. But looking at Luo Qingxun, why does she look so calm? She heard the whispers around her. Although she didn't know what He Jinyan's intention was, she knew that he was definitely not on Lin Miao's side. On this point, she was still full of confidence and certainty. However, Chun-Li's expression was not as good as expected. His nephew, Chun Dong, pulled his hand excitedly and said, "Uncle, it seems that President He is not on Editor Luo's side." "President He, you don't have to." He Jinyan narrowed his eyes and looked at him coldly. "As for the position of the editor-in-chief, it's not up to you and me to decide. We should ask the person with the highest authority over this matter." Everyone was stunned and revealed a wisp of a puzzled expression. Logically speaking, after QC acquired the cherry blossoms, the person with the highest sovereignty should be He Jinyan. However, he said that he had to ask for the opinion of another person. What did he mean by that? So, who is Sakura's highest pledgee now? It must be the one with the highest shares. Then, isn't that President He? From the looks of it, I'm afraid not. In that case, I would like to ask about the person with the highest authority in this cherry blossom. Lin Miao was clearly nervous. Even her words were trembling slightly. For some reason, she felt an inexplicable sense of unease in her heart. In the next second, He Jinyan threw the USB flash drive from his suit pocket to Chun-Li and said, "You tell her. After all, you're the one who chose her." Chun-Li took the USB flash drive and turned on the computer with some trepidation. However, the moment the equity transfer book appeared in front of his eyes, he, who had experienced hundreds of battles, revealed an incredulous expression. How could this be? Chapter 1958. Who is it? Lin Miao pursed his dry lips and asked nervously. "Actually, I have a lot of connections in Sakura Blossom. I've always been everyone's confidant, Luo Qingchun." Chun-Li frowned slightly. He looked a little helpless, but he had to admit this fact. Luo Qingchun held the highest shares in Sakura Blossom magazine. An hour ago, He Jinyan transferred all of Sakura Blossom's shares to her. She now held the highest position. In other words, so what if Lin Miao became the editor-in-chief? In He Jinyan's heart, the so-called editor-in-chief position was unfair to Luo Qingchun. What? Lin Miao's eyes widened. He looked at Luo Qingchun with a pale face and murmured, "No, impossible. How is this possible?" Luo Qingchun was the person who held the most shares in Sakura Blossom magazine. This was simply a fantasy. Qindong's face was clearly filled with panic. He glanced over, and his gaze landed on his uncle, Chun-Li. He did not know that although Chun-Li frowned, there was no panic on his face. No wonder he felt so familiar when he first heard the name Luo Qingchun. Once upon a time, when he and He Jinyan were still living under the bridge, he seemed to have heard He Jinyan call out this name in his dreams. Luo Qingchun, Luo Qingchun, Luo Qingchun, uncle, say something. The atmosphere was so tense that Qindong did not know what to do. Suddenly, he regretted it. It was very likely that his future would be ruined because of this so-called beauty. Director, after a long time, Chun-Li was the first to speak up. He bowed seriously to He Jinyan and said, "I've mishandled this matter. I'm willing to step down from my position as a QC and never step into the business circle again." When Luo Qingchun heard this, her eyebrows trembled slightly. She thought to herself, this means that he wants to keep a low profile and bide his time. Logically speaking, she probably knew that the reason why Chun-Li was biased this time was because he felt that Sakura Blossoms was not even a subsidiary company to QC. This magazine could not even reach the sales volume of their company. He thought that the editor-in-chief would not affect the overall situation at all. However, he did not expect that He Jinyan would care so much about this company. Okay, it's decided. In the next second, He Jinyan looked up coldly. His entire body emitted waves of coldness that made people shudder. Everyone looked at He Jinyan in disbelief. Only Chun-Li's expression was indifferent. The onlookers who didn't know the situation might think that this was just a small matter. Chun-Li was in a high position in QC. Even if he wasn't careful enough in handling the company's major matters, it wouldn't be as serious as him taking the blame and resigning. Moreover, this was just a small matter. Qindong was stunned when he heard He Jinyan's words. He was stunned for almost 10 seconds before he responded immediately. "President, you can't do this to my uncle." He gave up everything he had for QC without holding back. You, You can't judge his efforts for the company just because of a woman. Yes, a woman. In the next second, Hejinian's lips curled into a smile. In an instant, his deep eyes sparkled as he looked at Shandong and said, I'm an unreasonable person who protects my wife. Chapter 1959. At this moment, Lin Miao staggered back. Her feet went soft, and she couldn't bear it anymore and sat down. At this time, she seemed to have lost her mind. She suddenly raised her hand and pointed at Luo Qingshun. She said in a sharp tone, You shameless vixen. Who knows what you used in exchange for these things? Bah, you are so shameless. Every word that came out of Lin Miao's mouth was harsh to the ears. Luo Qingshun snorted. When she was about to say something, she was interrupted by Hejinian's extremely cold words. I'm afraid you don't know the real meaning of QC. His voice was very cold, cold to the bone. Queen Crown. Luo Qingshun repeated this word in her heart. Suddenly, her heart beat faster inexplicably. Perhaps everything was different from what she had imagined. Hejinian always expressed his love for her in his own way. It was like this in the past, and it was also like this now. Lin Miao looked at him in a daze. She was intimidated by his aura. What she wanted to say was stuck in her throat. There is no such thing as a queen's crown. He narrowed his cold eyes and said softly, If I could register this multinational company, I would definitely use Qingshun. QC equals Qingshun. Hejinian suddenly revealed the truth, which caught everyone in the whole conference room off guard. It was not because Luo Qingshun wanted to get close to Hejinian to get the shares of Sakura Cherry Blossoms. It was because QC, a multinational company like a dark horse, existed for Luo Qingshun. Because of her, he was able to grit his teeth and endure those 3 years in a foreign country. Perhaps in his heart, he always believed that this company existed under her name. In any case, he couldn't fall down. Like a giant, he could never fall down. Lin Miao's hands kept trembling. She seemed to be in a state of self-paralysis and couldn't cry. The next second, her eyes rolled back and she couldn't bear it. She fainted directly. The scene suddenly fell into a panic. Only Hejinian rushed to her side as fast as he could. He held her hand tightly and stood firmly by her side. Some people are destined to be passers-by in your life, and some people are destined to be the main characters that will never change. Hejinian was the protagonist of Luo Qingshun's life, from the past to the present, from the present to the future. When she came home that night, when Luo Qingshun opened the door, there was the sound of D that kept coming from her phone. She frowned and took out her phone. She saw that all her messages were from Hejinian. I'm very far away. It's very cold here. I ate ham and rice with vegetables for lunch. Indeed, without me, the first place would have been yours. I told you not to eat anything cold. You must be feeling uncomfortable. Rub your head. The content of Hejinian's WeChat message was very strange, but Luo Qingshun knew what it meant at first glance. He seemed to have started replying to her messages one by one, starting from the first WeChat message she had sent him. Suddenly, her eyes turned red and she wanted to cry. She quickly changed her WeChat name to Don't Forget Mortal Heart and then sent him a message. Don't forget Mortal Heart. Mr. Lan Yin, are you sure you want to reply to my more than 1,000 messages? His original nickname, Hejinian, was changed instantly. He gave her a name that was easy to say. Don't forget, I don't want to be your good friend anymore. Chapter 1960. Not Forgettable Heart. Luo Qingshun, who was holding the phone, smiled faintly. A warm feeling went straight to her heart. Mianyan Bufu, let's get married. As he typed this sentence, he nervously paced back and forth in the hotel suite. He felt that although this sentence came 3 years later, he was still as nervous as before. In the world of love, the word mature in his dictionary suddenly disappeared. Not forgettable heart. Don't you think there's a process missing? Process. For example, strangers to friends, friends to lovers, lovers to husband and wife. How come there's no relationship between them at all? And they're talking about marriage directly? Did Hejinian eat the word girlfriend? Based on his understanding of Luo Qingshun, Hejinian instantly understood what she meant. Mianyan Bufu, I think our previous relationship was better than lovers. As Luo Qingshun took a shower, she didn't reply to He for a long time. When she replied again, WeChat was once again paralyzed. He was once again in the stage of replying to previous messages. Every sentence was funny, but there was also an indescribable warmth. But the continuous tremors were really not forgettable hard. I think your suggestion is very good. I accept it. Mianyan bufu. Mianyan bufu. Mianyan bufu. Not forgettable heart. Do you want to go back on your words? Mianyan bufu. I will never regret. Not forgettable heart. Mianyan bufu. Forget it. I'll tell you on our wedding day. 3 months later, on a warm spring day, they welcomed their wedding. The gardenia flowers bloomed, and the air was filled with a faint floral fragrance. She stood in front of him in a pure white wedding dress, listening to the pastor's questions and his answers. Amidst the applause and cheers, her eyebrows trembled slightly as she asked, "What did you want to say to me that day?" His beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of liguang. He gently leaned over and whispered in her ear, "I love you." Time's obsession. Time is as good as new. If he had said this sentence more than 10 years ago, it would have sounded so frivolous. But now it was so solemn. He hid his deep love for her so that he could accompany her forever in this life. No matter if it was a lover or a friend, there was at least one thing that he was sure of, and that was that he would never lose her. But now he finally understood that taking this step was not a separation, but a re-entry into her life with another identity. Take care of her, protect her, cherish her. For some reason, when she suddenly heard He, who was a little dull when it came to the word love, say this, her fair cheeks unconsciously blushed. "Wife, I'm sorry." His eyes trembled as he nervously looked at her. Was I too anxious? Shouldn't he say the words, "I love you" now? Should he wait a little longer? In the next second, Luo Qingshun smiled awkwardly and said, "Shouldn't I be too slow?" As soon as her voice fell, she tiptoed and lifted the white veil. Looking at his thin and slightly red lips, she kissed him without hesitation. In that instant, he took the initiative and held her waist with his right hand. There was a touch of dominance in his gentleness. After an unknown amount of time, he gently let go of her and gently planted a kiss between her eyebrows. "No matter how beautiful you are, it can't compare to the first time I met you." Chapter 1961. I like you. Clumsy and dull. You have nothing, but you give everything you have. Since the day I was born, I have been shining brightly. I can always easily solve the problems that other children of the same age as me encounter. I'm never worried about my grades, but a life without worries is actually boring after a long time. Meeting her might have cost me all the luck in my life. And I never had the luck to be with her again. From middle school to high school, from high school to university, I always felt that she was someone I was grateful to. I didn't have any extra thoughts. Even when she gave Su Zian a love letter, I only felt a little disappointed. This kind of disappointment didn't make me sad, nor did it make my heart ache. It was probably the feeling of your best friend suddenly having another half, and you were frozen by her. But there were always so many people paying attention to my world, which made me forget about it very quickly. Until that day on the basketball court. I saw that Su Zian didn't greet her, so I went over and said a few words to her. Little did I know, her boyfriend walked over in an instant, as if he was declaring his sovereignty. It was very annoying, but I didn't say anything. I always thought that I could walk away like before, but I don't know why, but suddenly I cared. Maybe it was because she said to Su Zian, "We're not fighting, we're parting ways." Or maybe it was because she looked at me from the corner of her eyes. In short, I suddenly couldn't calm down. I rarely lose my calm, but when I lose my calm, I will do special things. For example, I knew that she went to the library. For example, I ran into her when I went over. When I sat next to her, I could feel that my original calmness turned into nervousness. I was so nervous that I unwillingly said, "Single people have nothing to share." The next second, her reply made me completely stunned. She said that she was also single. This feeling was really wonderful. It couldn't be described with words, and there was no way to describe how wonderful it was. Actually, what I looked forward to the most was the class reunion, because I knew that there would be a lot of people who would put my name and hers together, appearing at the same time. But I didn't expect that Chen would appear halfway. But she seemed to be the key to my heart. I suggest a game of dice. The reason was simple. I wanted to take advantage of my drunkenness to say and do some things that I didn't dare to say before. But what I didn't expect was that she could hold her liquor so well. I suddenly felt so small in front of her, and she was so dazzling. The sound of beer bottles being opened kept ringing in their ears, and the people around them fell down one after another. She narrowed her eyes and looked at me seriously, which made me flustered. Finally, I decided to pretend to be drunk. Actually, he wasn't really pretending to be drunk. It was probably because he drank too much that his blood was boiling, but his mind was especially clear. I could feel her gently hugging me in the taxi, and I could smell her unique fragrance mixed with the smell of wine. At this moment, I felt like I couldn't hold it in any longer. Some things could be left unsaid, but some things had to be done. In the living room on the first floor under the dim light, I was probably more nervous than her when I suddenly hugged her. At that time, what I wanted to know the most was, did she see her own heart clearly? Chapter 1962. In fact, sometimes I admit that when it comes to my feelings for her, I have become very timid. I can't say the words "I like you" for many years. But maybe it's because of my tolerance that no matter how many years have passed, I can still be by her side. It's just that I didn't think that He would appear out of nowhere in our lives. When I first saw He, I knew that he could steal my light. It wasn't because he was better looking than me, but because of his peach blossom eyes and the curve of his mouth. He was the complete opposite of me. His passion and enthusiasm made me feel inexplicably irritated, but there was also a trace of envy. Yes, I envied him. I envied him for being able to get close to her without hesitation and express his love without caring about anything else. But I couldn't do it. At that time, I felt like I had fallen into a deep abyss. I wanted to escape, but I couldn't get ashore no matter what. At that time, as long as I heard He's voice, I couldn't concentrate. His light tone was like a deep mockery, making me feel I was about to lose her. I was the only one who was by her side, but now, at that time, I actually hoped that He could disappear from this world forever and never exist again. I don't know if it was because my resentment was too deep, or because He's fate was too bad. He really disappeared, or rather, he didn't disappear, he became a vegetable. I heard that he got into a car accident on the way to buy flowers for her. That day was Chinese Valentine's Day. He probably wanted to confess to her. In the dark side of my heart, there was a trace of inexplicable joy. At least, he couldn't steal her away. Although I knew that I couldn't have her either. Because I knew that this matter must have an impact on her, I couldn't become an obstacle to her at this time. I felt that I could wait for the day he woke up, or wait for us to graduate and reach the age where we need to start a family. But I didn't expect that I couldn't wait for that day. My family was targeted by competitors in the same industry. They used illegal means to maliciously slander our company, causing our stock to plummet. But my parents were very prestigious in the business circle, and the emergency plan was implemented very quickly, so the company quickly stabilized. But I didn't expect that they would directly kill us. When I received the call from my uncle, I knew that there would be no future between her and me. So the first person to leave was me, not her. Once upon a time, I always thought that I would stay by her side forever. No matter what happened, even if she didn't choose to marry me in the end, I would always be by her side. I had never thought that leaving her would become my decision. When I sat on the plane, I could run out of the plane, I could forget all the hatred and stay by her side. But I knew that I couldn't. There would always be many choices in life, and every choice would be so difficult. And that choice was the most difficult one I've ever made in my life. There was no other choice. Life in America was more difficult than I thought. My parents left me a sum of money, but this money was deposited in a specific bank. The mastermind who killed my parents had always sent people to watch the bank. I knew that they wanted to catch me and get rid of me quickly. Chapter 1963. Actually, I should thank Shunli because he appeared by my side when I needed help the most. Although he did some stupid things later on, I still didn't fire him. Do you think the reason I didn't fire him was because he was in the same boat as me? Then you're completely wrong. The reason I didn't fire Chinley was because my wife didn't agree. Of course, it was a long time before she became my wife. After all, it was a dream for me in America at that time. Those 3 years might have passed in the blink of an eye for her. But for me, every day felt like a year. Every day, I wanted to trip up the enemy as soon as possible. I knew that the faster it was, the more unsettled I would be. But I couldn't control myself. Every night under the bridge, I couldn't fall asleep, but in the few seconds I slept, I would always dream of her. A pure white school uniform, a coffee-colored checkered skirt, shoulder-length hair, and a slight smile on the corner of her mouth. The dream was really warm, so warm that I didn't want to wake up. Finally, the heavens didn't let me down. It allowed me to obtain decisive evidence. It turned out that my parents didn't just leave behind a sum of money, but also evidence of bribery and violence against those competitors. In the end, I successfully tripped them up and used the connections left behind by my parents to start a new business. Actually, it wasn't difficult, at least it wasn't difficult for me at all. Half a year later, the company had enough power to go public. When someone asked me why I named the company QC, the corner of my mouth would always unconsciously rise. Because in my eyes, she was as dazzling as a queen, like a warm ray of light shining into my life. And my final wish was to personally put on the crystal crown for her. Of course, it had another meaning for the seagull. QC equals Qing Chun. Only with her name could I be filled with boundless fighting spirit and constantly work hard. I hoped that when I returned to her side, I would still be dazzling. Only then would I be able to match her. Before I returned to China, I secretly investigated her current job. Actually, the day I successfully sent the person who killed my parents to prison, I was thinking of ways to obtain information about her. But at that time, I didn't have any domestic connections, so it was impossible for me to know. As for my original phone, I always thought that he had stopped using it later. When I wanted to buy back that number, I found out that someone had been paying for my phone bills for the past 3 years. Great. Luo Qingshun was a very, very good girl. According to my investigation, Sakura Blossoms was only a second-rate magazine in a city, and she was only the chief editor. I suddenly felt that it wasn't worth it for her. Such an outstanding person was only a chief editor. Do they have good taste? I didn't say anything. I bought this company and found a good excuse to get close to her after I returned to China. Actually, this excuse was good. Inside the meeting room, I looked at her surprised face. Looking at everyone else's shocked faces, I felt an inexplicable joy in my heart. She just wants to stand in a place of endless light, and I'm willing to let her stand in that position for the rest of my life. I only want to be a shadow, because that way, I can always chase after her. It was like a shadow chasing after light and dreams. Chapter 1964. When she returned to the chaos space again, Luo Qingshan was confused. Wasn't she only in her 60s? She was still in her prime. Why did she suddenly come back? Luo Qingchun knit her brows in a depressed manner, but she couldn't remember it no matter how hard she tried. Does the host want to see the scene before her death? Damn, of course. She felt that it had been a long time since she heard the system's voice. After all, she seemed to have finished the task very early in the last plane. The system didn't come out at all except to say a few words to scare people. The next second, the bronze mirror turned into a light blue light, and the familiar scene slowly came into view. Pink. It was a pink bedroom. When she was 20, she liked to pretend to be mature. When she was 60, she liked to pretend to be young. Fortunately, Helanyan spoiled her. She was already worth more than 100 million yuan, but she didn't mind pretending to be young with her husband. Gardenia flowers were placed quietly on the wooden cabinet in the bedroom. She could feel the faint fragrance of gardenia flowers in the chaos space just by looking at it. In the quiet night, she put her feet on Helanyan's stomach from time to time. Her hands were restless and often slapped his face. Looking at herself sleeping like this, Luo Qingshan felt a little embarrassed. Ahem. The next second, she cleared her throat and said, This is nothing. It's so beautiful. It's not like the scene before my death. Before she finished her words, the scene in the bronze mirror began to shake violently. Helanyan, who was beside her, opened his eyes instantly. The moment he wanted to hold her and run out, the whole ceiling was lifted directly. He turned around and used his 60-year-old body to protect her firmly under his body. How much did he love her that he didn't forget his original intention in the fleeting years? At the moment of life and death, the first thing he thought of was to protect her. Although he failed in the end, but such an action made her, who was standing in the chaos space at this moment, her eyes turned red. In an instant, the scene turned black, and the bronze mirror gradually returned to its original cold appearance. Earthquake? Earthquake? Yes, but our house must be very earthquake-proof because it's... Before Luo Qingxuan finished speaking, the system interrupted her. Magnitude 12 earthquake. F***CK. Then wouldn't all of them be GG? Yes. 99% of the people in City A are dead. Luo Qingxuan suddenly felt less depressed. After all, she didn't think that she had the luck to become that 1%. Then the system will conclude. Say it, say it. The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name: Luo Qingxuan Plain Space. Hello, my Mr. Blueyan. Mission completion rate: 100%. There are currently 5 items in the express storage. April 5th Exquisite Ring, 9-section Moon Whip, Phoenix Dance Sword, Universal Medicine Box. Permanent ability: Space and Time Freeze LV4 permanent ability. Teleportation LV2 exchange points, 9,000 base points. 40 host. The 33rd mission panel is below. In the next second, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission level: A. Experience gained. 500 female lead. Luo Qingxuan, Qingxia, male lead. Gongmu Bai, Muyu, supporting female lead. Xia Tianxin, Sweet Baby, supporting male lead. Guan Zhang, Sun Prince Charming, mission content. Return to 7 months before the death of the female lead and obtain the love of the male lead. Chapter 1965. Luo Qingxuan quietly received all the memories of the previous host and strangely felt a bit excited. This was something she hadn't seen in a long time. An online game. Moreover, this was an online game that made her feel nostalgic. Because at the beginning of this world, she had met Mu Qianlu in this game. The previous host was the daughter of the richest man in a city in real life, having a very good family background. It was probably because her real life was too boring. After all, she was a rich family's young miss who had everything. Other than the famous brands, there was nothing worth doing for her. At this time, her friend Su Nanan, who was also a rich family's young miss, was hurt in a game. Actually, it wasn't that hurt. It was just that Su Nanan had a crush on a great god in this game. No matter how hard she worked, she couldn't obtain the great god's favor, because the great god was just too cold. That day, the previous host, who was a bit drunk, said that she would definitely take down this cold man for her friend before abandoning him. It was a pity that the truth was, the previous host couldn't even touch the corner of the man's clothes before falling into the online love world created by this trash man. The male god that Su Nanan worshipped was the #1 light blade, close combat job, in a new server of Heavenly Mandate, who had incredible skills. Therefore, there were many girls who were like Su Nanan, worshipping the great god, but they could only watch from afar and couldn't play with him. By the great god's side, there were many girls who were known as crying monsters on the internet. It had to be said, the previous host really had bad hands. But just because she had bad hands didn't mean she wasn't a rich player. The previous host had just played the game and directly charged 30,000 RMB, taking the wings that all the rich players in the game wore, black gold. Even if you were a newbie with money, there would still be people willing to play with you, even if your bad hands had reached a point where there was no cure. Because she had money, the previous host easily entered the high-level team in the new server. Because her skills were terrible, every time she played, she would always be lying on the ground like a corpse. The men in the game saw that she was a girl and had money, so naturally they wouldn't say anything. But those girls who didn't have much money, but because of their good skills, they naturally had a disease when they saw her. This disease was known as jealousy disease. Once this disease was born, those little white flowers who had some skills but loved to whine would go around gossiping. For example, the girl in our guild who has some money. You don't know anything, yet you're able to join a high-level team to fight dungeons? What a joke. Or, that Qingxia. His technique was really lousy. He was just relying on the sun to be able to enter the high-level battle group. Speaking of sun, his in-game ID was Sun Adonis. He was a Templar, melee class, with decent skills. It was a pity that he only had good technique and was not a tycoon. From the opening of the game to the maximum level, he had only spent a total of 90 yuan. As for the rest of the money, including the 28,000 renminbi wings on his body, it was all from the original owner. However, no one in the game knew about this. Although the original owner spent a lot of money and was a spoiled young lady, she was a good person. In order not to hurt Taiyang's self-esteem, she had never mentioned to anyone about topping up money for her. Therefore, the people in the team did not know. And the original owner gradually changed from a rich girl to a girl who was kept by someone with bad skills. Chapter 1966. The guild that the previous host was in was called World Conquering. It was a large war guild in the new server. Most of the people in this guild spent money to play games, and they spent a lot of money. The big bosses always needed girls to play games, and the girls in this guild also had a small group. With Sweet Baby as the leader, they established the so-called cute girl group. They naturally didn't like the previous host, because the previous host usually bought the things she liked, but they had to form a contract with the big boss to have it. Over time, in their eyes, the previous host became the odd one out in the guild. When they had nothing to do, they liked to blindly fantasize. For example, that Qingxia, I can tell at a glance that it was Sun who spent money on her. She thinks she's a big boss every day. She probably already sent it thousands of miles away. Isn't that right? Otherwise, with her broken hands, how could she fight? She only knows how to hug the big boss thighs. So disgusting. There were too many similar words to count. After all, the previous host had been pampered since she was young. She almost never encountered this kind of thing, so when she encountered this kind of thing, she didn't know what to do. At this time, the supporting male lead sun male god told her that if she gave them gifts, maybe they would change their view of her. Because the previous host liked this sun male god very much, in order to be able to stay in this guild, during a New Year's event, she gave each of the cute girls, led by Sweet Baby, a bridal dress. She didn't expect that they would receive the bridal dress in exchange for a false accusation, directly letting one of Sweet Baby's dream group, Sweet Baby, become the sun male god. In fact, the previous host later found out that this girl called Sweet Baby already had an affair with the sun male god. But for the previous host's money, the sun male god never formed a contract with her. Just before, Sweet Baby directly sent the sun male god from thousands of miles away, making this man called Sun rush to his head for a beauty. After coming back, he forcibly formed a contract with the previous host at the contract place. Moreover, he also sent a cross-server horn. The word between the lines were like a big boss disdainfully stretching out his hand. Cross-server, sun male god. I gave so many things, isn't it enough? Every day when you go online, you only ask for money. You're always lying in dungeons. This kind of contract isn't enough. Are you going to keep it for New Year's? In the next second, a series of system announcements appeared in the world. Announcement: the Sun Prince Charming has successfully formed a contract with Qingxia using a single-person secret method at the place of the contract. From now on, they will never meet again in the cloud falling continent, and the oath of the past will never return. Because the entire Dream Girl group was on the side of the Sun, Prince Charming, and Cute Baby. No matter how the host tried to explain herself, her words carried little weight. Moreover, before she could even defend herself, she was asked to leave the guild by the guild leader of World Conqueror. The people she loved, the money she spent, were gone forever. The next day, the Sun, Prince Charming, and Cutie Babe successfully formed a contract. He also bought 52 yuan worth of fireworks from the mall to set off. The whole place was bustling with noise and excitement. Both the world and the horn were boiling, but at this moment, the original owner was lonely. Only one person had messaged her privately. It was the only disciple she had taken in when she first started playing the game. Private chat. White clothes as before. Master, are you okay? The original owner's disciple had a low level and poor equipment. The reason why the two of them met was because he asked the original owner for a rare mount called the Nine-Colored Immortal Deer. Chapter 1967. This matter, the previous host didn't remember it until the next day when she went online. It wasn't until her disciple added her as a friend that she said, "So, it's like this." So her disciple was probably the person who understood her the most. A person who didn't care about $1,000 for a mount definitely wouldn't be as bad as World Conqueror said. When she received her disciple's concern, the previous host was actually very pleased. After all, in this cold game, there was someone who truly trusted her. She sent all of his valuable things to her disciple and then went back to the game page to delete her character. To her, this game had no other meaning other than hatred. She also wanted to take revenge on them. She wanted to tear apart their ugly faces and expose their hypocrisy to the world. She even wanted to go to their enemy guild, Drunken Dreamflower Wine, and become their enemy. But she knew she couldn't do it. Those little white flowers weren't wrong. Every battle, instance, and territory war, she was useless. She was just a bad hand. When she first started playing this game, she just wanted to be a casual player. She wanted to look at the scenery in the game and wear beautiful clothes. She never thought she would meet the Sun Male God and never thought she would enter a war guild. She really wanted to become a first-class healer, but this was just a fantasy for her. After deleting the game, she went out in the middle of the night to find a bar to get drunk. She didn't expect to get into a car accident on the way back. The second before she died, she was still thinking about the plot of the game Heavenly Mandate. If she could restart her life, or even her gaming life, she would definitely become a top-notch healer. Most importantly, she wanted to become one of the best healers in the game. Tear apart little white flowers and stay away from scumbags. What does the host think of this world? It feels very challenging, but I want to know who the male lead is. It had to be said that the previous host didn't remember the existence of the male lead. Yes, not even a little bit. The male lead's name is on the bronze mirror panel. His guild is Dreamlight Year's #1 guild, Drunken Dreamflower Wine's Gaujon. So it was like this. Was it that the guild that the original owner of the body wanted to take revenge on? Going back to 7 months ago, it was when the host had just formed a contract with the Sun Male God and came into contact with the Dream Girl group. In fact, from the first day the original owner entered this guild, the members of the Dream Sister group, led by Sweet Baby, didn't find her very pleasing to the eye. If a guy was rich, he would be called a big shot. All the girls would whine and try to get close to him. In their eyes, girls who were rich were different, and that was how they got jealous. Luo Qingshun sat in front of the computer and looked at the characters in the game. She felt a sense of familiarity with this game. Although she had already passed through more than 20 planes, she was still very excited to be back. This time, her class had changed from Li Guang, who could take on 2 opponents at once, to healer. To be honest, she didn't really like being a nanny. After all, under normal circumstances, the healer was only responsible for healing the DPS. She couldn't really kill people. She looked at herself in the game. She was wearing a white wedding dress with a title above her head, Sun Prince Charming. Forever One Couple. This was a title that would be given to 2 characters in some stories if they formed a soul contract with each other. Chapter 1968. Guild. Cute Baby. Is there anyone who can send me flowers? Cute Baby's personal space. Guild. Sweet Baby. I want flowers too. Carrot. Omega Carrot. Guild. Big Brother Divine Dragon. You two are so popular, and you still want flowers. This Big Brother Divine Dragon was also a big shot in the game. A single big shot who hadn't found a contract yet. However, in the impression, his voice was relatively rough, so the 3 people of Dream Sister Group didn't seem to like him. But even if they didn't like him, they still had to hug the big shot's thigh. After all, this kind of big shot who didn't have a contract was easier to get gifts. Guild. Fairy Baby. Didn't Big Brother Divine Dragon open a lot of gift boxes yesterday? Which little sister did you want to give them to? Luo Qingshun looked at the dialogue in the guild, and the corners of her mouth outlined a faint smile. It seemed that the 3 sisters of the Cute Sister group had all appeared, and this Fairy Baby should be the most low-key one among them. But as long as any big shots contracted player had something extra, she would say in the guild, "Look at that so-and-so, they're the new set of clothes." It must be a gift from her. Guild, big brother divine dragon. I just opened it casually. I didn't have a contract. Who can I give it to? Guild, fairy baby. Yesterday I saw you giving him so many rainbow roses. Did you give her the fashion on her? Looking at this sentence from fairy baby, Luo Qingshun coldly snorted and murmured, "Only boys have money in this world. Can't girls have money?" Guild, duo, funny. Well, you don't have means that others don't have it. Guild, fairy baby, little sister, duo, don't get excited. I'm not teasing divine dragon. Equals? Smiley face, guild, duo, I can't accept it. Guild announcement. Duo has left the guild. Luo Qingshun, who was sitting in front of the computer, froze for a moment. This scene seemed to exist in the memory of the original owner. But at that time, the original owner decisively stood on the side of the sweet, lovely fairy sisters. Guild, fairy baby, I'll go. Do you need to have such a glass heart? Can't you take a joke? Guild, sweet, lovely baby. There are a lot of people like this, showing off over there with a bit of fighting power. Our guild's #1 healer isn't even her. Guild, Sun Adonis. The guild's #1 healer is my wife. Qingxia's personal space, TSK, as expected of a newlywed. At this time, the Sun Prince Charming still wanted to gain the trust of the original owner. After all, he knew better than anyone that the original owner was a rich man. Guild, fairy baby. What's the use of having high combat power? To be able to latch onto someone powerful, the key was whether the technique was good or not. This girl called Cute Treasure really was taunting. Luo Qingshun opened her personal space and saw 300,000 battle power. She then tapped on her own space. 500,000 combat power. Although they were both nannies, it was obvious that they were not on the same level. Moreover, the techniques used were not in the same field. Wait, system, did you give me the healer skill? Oh, I'm sorry, the system forgot. Ding, due to the special nature of the game world, the host will receive 50% of the healer skills. What did 50% mean? Since this is an A-rank mission, the host can only perform 50% of the skills. What about the other 50%? Self-taught. Chapter 1969. She could roughly understand what the system meant by 50%. Based on the best healer in the game, Heavenly Mandate, the skills and operations that she had acquired now were only half of what she had. But it was clear that when she had 50% of her skills, she could clearly feel her hands on the game. The next second, she quickly typed a line of words on the keyboard. Guild Qingxia. Flag? In this game, planting a flag meant a 1v1 duel. So in Luo Qingshun's world, if you can fight, don't talk nonsense. Drawing the sword was the best way to solve all problems. The next second, the World Conqueror's YY channel exploded. In the cute girl group small room, there were 3 women's sharp voices with similar tones. She's so bad at fighting you? That's right. Who doesn't know that she's a level 79 healer who can't even beat a level 50 dungeon? Why would she fight you? Isn't it because she's riding on someone's coattails? Tai Yong is one of the best at fighting. I don't know what's wrong with his head. He actually found a lousy player to be his contracted partner. Then do you think I should take it or not? Doesn't that lousy player know if she can beat me? Take it. She's so arrogant. I can't stand it anymore. Cute baby said in a shabby rented room. I'm obviously much better than her. I don't know why Taeyong likes her. As one of the 3 sisters in the guild, she and Taeyong were the best friends. She always thought that he would ask her to be his contracted partner, but she didn't expect a high-level healer named Qingxia to appear out of nowhere. Although she was high-level, in her eyes, it must be because her previous contracted partner increased her combat power and equipment. Guild, Fairy Baby. A 500,000 strong healer against a 300,000 strong healer. How embarrassing would it be if you lose? Guild, Qingxia. Beating noobs is never embarrassing. As soon as this sentence was sent out, Taeyong sent her a private message. Private, Taeyong. What's wrong with you today? Why are you so angry? Fairy skills are good. You shouldn't fight her. As the contracted partner of the original owner, Taeyong naturally knew the original owner's skill level. Although the original owner was rich and had good equipment, but in a one-on-one fight, he couldn't hit the opponent at all. In addition, She didn't know how to move, so the opponent's skills all landed on her. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and didn't reply. She directly bought the dual post from the game store and attached it with Fairy Baby's ID. Instantly, the world was in an uproar. World, the cold moonlight misses you into the river. What the F asterisk CK? Dual post. World, an Exine. What's the point of having two nannies? World, KK Littlebow. Speaking of which, I played a dungeon with my fairy last time. She's a pretty good healer. World, cute baby, what a pity. The other 500,000 strong healer was a handicapped player. If he lost the dual post, he wouldn't be able to stay in this area anymore. World, sweet baby. That's right. Who the hell would know who made the equipment on his body? In order to express the friendship between the three sisters, the other two treasures with the same symbol format supported their sisters on the World Channel. However, at this time, of course, there were people who recognized justice. For example, Duo, who had just left the guild. Chapter 1970. Luo Qingshun opened Duo's personal space. She was a healer with a combat power of 450,000, and her equipment was excellent. When she saw the guild information, she froze for a moment. The person who just left the guild actually went to Drunken Dreamflower Wine. Wasn't this the guild of the male lead, Gongmu Bai? World, Fairy Baby, let's fight. I'm not afraid of you. Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed, and she quickly typed a line of words. Her mouth outlined a very faint smile. Horn, Qingxia, Sulan Bridge waiting for you. Do you dare to destroy your account if you lose? Because the world was already boiling, Luo Qingshun directly entered the horn. This kind of aggressive approach made Fairy Baby a little panic. The three cute girls group once again started a discussion in YY. Is she for real? Destroying her account? She already said it. If she didn't do it, it would be embarrassing. Why don't I bet with her? Anyway, she can't be my opponent at all. After Fairy Baby finished this sentence, she swallowed her saliva and said, she can't suddenly become strong. Why are you panicking? Didn't we fight the guild robbers together this morning? The amount of healing was really terrible. Okay, I'm not afraid of her. The next second, Fairy Baby clenched her teeth and bought a horn in response to Luo Qingshun. Horn, Fairy Baby, delete your account. Don't regret it. Only at this moment, the world once again fell into boiling. This was a battle of the century between healers. There were already people in the world betting. World, Casino 005. Place your bets. It's now 1-1. Enter the group. Place your bets. World Dreamer. This Fairy Baby and Qingxia's combat power are too different. Can she win? World, a little bear. That's not necessarily true. Fairy Baby's technique is good. I heard that although Qingxia's equipment is good, her technique is terrible. World, Luo Qinghuan. That's true. In this game, combat power is one thing, technique is another. The world screen scrolled too fast, and she was too lazy to look, until a ding sound in the microphone. She glanced at the chat box in the lower right corner. It was a private message from the original owner's disciple. Private chat, white-clothed as before. Master, do you really want to plan a fly with her? Speaking of this disciple, Luo Qingshun recalled that it was because the original owner forgot to collect money from him. As a result, he shamelessly stuck to her. Later on, not only did he give the original owner money, he also insisted on being her apprentice and let her teach him the technique. Wasn't this a joke? The original owner's skills were so bad. Did she teach her how to rush into the crowd to die? PM. Qingxia. Does the account deletion battle look like a joke? Eating melon. Because the original owner especially liked the expression of eating melons, she followed her habit and used it. Private chat. White clothes like before. But that person's technique is not bad. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and snorted lightly. Then, she forcefully typed a line of words on the mechanical keyboard. PM. Qingxia. I'm stronger than her. As she was speaking, she saw Fairy Baby walking over in the free fashion given by the sect in the game. Luo Qingshun glanced at the little girl in the computer. She was wearing a limited edition fashion, and her clothes were dyed with high-grade dyes. All of a sudden, She seemed to be able to understand why the three of them were suffering from the jealousy disease. After all, the gap between them was too big. System, notice, player Fairy Baby has accepted player Qing Xia's challenge. After 60 seconds, she will enter the attack state. Chapter 1971. Luo Qingsheng glanced at the multiplier name. There were very few people who bet on her winning. It was 5-1. In other words, if you bet on her winning, the 100,000 game coins would instantly become 500,000. God, how bad was the original owner's skill? Even with a difference of 200,000 battle power, she still couldn't win. Looking at the odds, the spectators in the World channel were excited again. World, board 2 idle. Looks like this is a game that relies on skill. World, love is a light. Heavenly Mandate is so fun. I can even recharge. World, cute baby. TSK. How bad is someone's skill? 0. There were still 20 seconds before the 1v1 match started. At this time, the betting house's Smuff account sent a message on the horn and made the whole game heated up. Horn betting house 005. Now both sides bet 1. Just now a big boss bet 30 million cloud coins, game coins, that Qing Xia will win. World Dreamer, what's going on? 30 million cloud coins. Isn't that 3,000 yuan? World, Luo Qinghuan. Big boss, if you have money, you can trade with me. No one wants me to play a dungeon and my skill is not good, but I have a lot of fun. Luo Qingshun looked at the horn on the computer. Her left hand habitually tapped on the wooden table. Who was at that bet 3,000 yuan on her winning? It was unbelievable. Could it be that Duo who just left the guild and went a drunken Dreamflower wine? That shouldn't be possible. After all, although Duo's equipment was good, she was definitely not a local tycoon. Ding dong. A private message sounded in her ear. Private. White clothes like before. Master will win. Luo Qingshun was confused when she saw her disciple's private message. Could it be that the 3,000 yuan was her bet? Private Qing Xia. You bet? Private. White clothes like before, of course. My entire fortune. I bet that Master will win. Luo Qingshun glanced at her disciple's equipment again. Sure enough, it was very bad. But what was interesting was that he and Gong Mubai were in the same guild. Also, drunken Dreamflower wine. Before she could think of a response, she and her Fairy Baby entered the flag planting mode. A fight between two healers was actually not very exciting, because healers could heal. If both healers were pure healers, it would be very difficult to kill them. Unless both sides ran out of mana, there would be no results. However, when Luo Qingshun switched her PK skill points, she directly switched them to damage points instead of pure healing points. In other words, a 300,000 yuan nanny was as fragile as a piece of paper in front of her. The two of them entered a one-on-one battle mode. Luo Qingshun used a small Qing Gong to increase the distance between them and directly attacked her. Because the original owner's equipment was very good, it was especially painful when it was cut to the point of damage. Before Fairy Baby could react, she only had half of her HP left. In the next second, she immediately used CC removal and wanted to raise her health. He didn't expect Luo Qingshun to use a control skill to instantly block the ape spirit howling empty mountain. On the computer screen, a gorilla descended from the sky and beat Fairy Baby to death. The whole world seemed to stop for 3 seconds. The normal one-on-one battle only took less than 20 seconds. Luo Qingshun had easily won like this. World, Lioli, 666666666 world, a little bear, 6666666666666 world, our memories, not much as 6. Chapter 1972. In fact, if Fairy Baby was the same as her and had a battle power of 500,000, she might not have won this battle so easily. The problem was that the original owner was a tycoon player. She had a real advantage in terms of battle power. Cross-server, Qingxia. Is that all you've got? Luo Qingshun didn't say anything and directly logged into the cross-server horn. In her memory, it was a horn that cost 100 renminbi. But at this moment, she felt that it was worth it. At this very moment, The three plastic flower sisters fell into a deathly silence. Fairy Baby clenched her teeth and said into the microphone, "Fairy, did you dodge the skill just now? Why do I feel like you're standing still?" She was the angriest of the three plastic sisters because she had always loved the son Prince Charming. So in this one-on-one battle, she especially hoped that Fairy would give her face. She didn't expect that she would lose, and lose so inexplicably. "Of course I dodged the skill," Fairy Baby said angrily. "I don't know what happened to her. Her skills suddenly improved, and she definitely isn't a pure healer. She's probably a damage dealer." "She can hit damage dealers?" Fairy Baby snorted coldly and said, "Ridiculous. I'll fight her." "Horn, Fairy Baby, it's just a difference in battle power. There's no need to say how good your skills are. I'll fight you." Luo Qingshun right-clicked on Fairy Baby's personal space. There was a selfie of an internet celebrity with a pretentious signature. Compared to Fairy Baby, her battle power was much higher, 400,000 battle power. Female supporting characters were indeed female supporting characters. They were always especially strong. But in front of her, they were still noobs. "Horn, Qingxia, delete your account first, okay?" After all, they had agreed to delete their accounts, and they wanted to fight her without deleting their accounts. Did they think she was an idiot? "Horn, Fairy Baby, with a difference of 200,000 battle power, your equipment is better than hers, so it's normal to win. Why should our fairy delete her account?" "Horn Qingxia, haha, if I win, will you delete your account?" This was an absolute declaration of war, not giving her any face. "World, a little bear, Big Brother Qingxia is right. What's the point of a one-on-one battle without deleting her account?" "World, farewell to the autumn wind. Looks like they're a bit scared." "World, Peach Blossom Dream. Big Brother, don't fight her. First, let them delete their accounts. If they don't delete their accounts, they're hooligans." Trash. The World Channel's discussion instantly became one-sided. After all, he had agreed to delete his account. Now that he had gone back on his word, it was really intolerable. Just as the matter was pushed to the cusp of the storm, the few white flower protectors in the guild couldn't sit still any longer. "Guild exclusive cute. I said, Qingxia is a guild. Do you really need to do this?" "Guild sword-wielding horizon. Exactly. It's just a crushes as if you and Fairy. You'll lose. "Guild Fairy's tail. Just because he had a few pieces of equipment, he liked to show off." She wasn't angry when Fairy Baby challenged her to a duel. Then, when Sweetheart Baby used the horn to ask her to fight again, she didn't get angry. "Qingxia Lin's when she's kinks." "Guild Qingxia, Fairy's little tail, are you blind?" "World, Fairy little tail. You're so mean. Do you really think you're a big brother? Come and plant a flag." Chapter 1973. When Luo Qingshun typed those words, her blood boiled, and she completely integrated into this world. Question: why is it so easy to integrate into this world? Answer: because there are a lot of idiots. "Guild Fairy's little tail, come on. I'm not scared of you." "Guild Qingxia, Sulan Bridge is waiting for you. Don't be like someone who can't even bear to delete a trash account after losing." Fairy's little tail was probably one of Fairy Baby's admirers. When his goddess was bullied, he was naturally angry. Luo Qingshun clicked on Fairy's little tail's account. 450,000 combat power, class, Yin Tian. She had to admit that his equipment was pretty good. He was considered a high-level fighter. But if a healer fought Yin Tian with a combat power of more than 50,000, the latter had no chance of winning. Unless the former was handicapped. But maybe in Little Tail's eyes, the original owner was handicapped. "Horn, Fairy's little tail. I'm going to tell everyone in Shallow Dream that if I lose, I'll delete my account." "Horn, Qingxia. Come on, I lose if I back down a single step." In the next second, Fairy's sobbing voice came from World Conqueror's YY channel. She said into the microphone, "Tail, you don't have to be like this. I really thank you. It's actually my fault. I don't mind being bullied by her since my combat power is low. I won't let you be bullied." A man's rough voice came from the YY channel. He sounded like a 30-something man. No wonder, even if he had a bit of money, spending 28,000 renminbi, getting the black gold wings, and changing Fairy's name, he still didn't get Little White Flower's favor. Tail, if you win, let's go sign a contract. Fairy pretended to be moved and said, I'm not afraid with you here. Fairy Baby didn't say this for no reason. After all, her account deletion battle with Luo Qingshun hadn't passed yet. As long as Tail won against Qingxia, she would have a reason not to delete her account. Bets were opened on the World Channel again. This time, the odds were almost completely one-sided. In less than a minute, the odds were 9-1. Almost everyone thought that Fairy's Tail was going to win this match. World, a little bear, big brother Qingxia, sorry. After all, your opponent is Flame Sky, one of the top players in the entire server. World, cool breeze, wow. How boring. There was almost no suspense in this match. World duo, I don't think so. 1 million cloud coins, I think Qingxia will win. Why should the protection team be afraid? It had to be said that Duo's words were really ruthless. World Casino 005. Just now, someone bet 60 million cloud coins on Big Boss Qingxia to win. Now, the odds are tied at 1-1. World Luo Qinghuan. What the F asterisk CK? So awesome. World, the pain of missing is breathing. I just want to know which big shot supports Big Shot Qingxia so much. Luo Qingshun, who was sitting in front of the computer, also gasped. She quickly opened the private chat window and locked onto the suspect. PM, Qingxia. Disciple, it's you again? Private chat. White clothes as before. Master, you have to win. These are the cloud coins that I just won. I haven't even warmed them yet. PM, Qingxia, I won't lose. Properly use these cloud coins to make equipment. Your equipment is too bad. PM, white clothes as before. Master will win. Master will win. Master will win. At this moment, a lot of onlookers had gathered at Sulan Bridge. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and saw a familiar name in the crowd. Chapter 1974. He wore a white brocade robe dyed with frost and snow, but he stood out in the crowd. Luo Qingshun took advantage of the gap between waiting and secretly opened his personal space. Profession, Lightblade. Combat power, 610,000. Profile picture, a moon-white long sword, white snow swirling, strong, ancient style. His personal space didn't allow people to leave messages, so it was blank. There was no master, no apprentice, no contract. Would such a big boss come to Sulan Bridge to watch this boring account deletion battle? Horn, Fairy's little tail. Hurry up. I don't have time to waste with you. Luo Qingshun saw the provocation on the horn, but was too lazy to talk to him. After all, don't talk when you can fight. The next second, she directly clicked on the request to exchange pointers. Both sides were ready. Because this time Love didn't send a dual post, the speed of entering the PK was particularly fast. It had to be said that this little Tails operation was really good. Whether it was positioning or prediction, it was very accurate, but Luo Qingshun was a healer after all. Moreover, she was no longer suitable to be a healer who cut into damage points, but a pure healer. Fairy's little tail hit her very painfully, but she also healed quickly, and her positioning was coquettish, dodging his several big skills in minutes. After a minute, Fairy's little tail had less than a third of his blood left, but she was still full of blood. As the saying goes, it's easy to make mistakes when you're anxious. When Luo Qingshun cast a control skill on him, he just didn't release it and was directly killed by her peerless skill. Fairy's little tail stood in place for a long time and didn't shake out of it. After all, let him accept the fact that he lost to a bad healer. He couldn't do it. But this was the truth. Even if he couldn't accept it, it was still the truth. The world was once again in an uproar. World, a little bear. F asterisk CK. Qingxia's operation just now was too amazing. Okay? World, Luo Qinghuan. She's definitely the best healer I've ever seen. World, Newton's apple. At least I heard people say that she's a bad healer. She has combat power, but can't even beat a level 50 temple. Now it seems that rumors stop with the wise. Horn, Qingxia, please take your nanny with you and delete your account. Although Luo Qingshun's words were a little aggressive, since the other party was so arrogant just now, she should accept the pain of the slap. Or in Fairy's little tale, what's so awesome about it? So be it if you want to delete it. Why are you pretending? Fairy's account will not be deleted. Only mine will be deleted. Cross-server Qingxia, coward. Or in Fairy Baby. So what if you're rich? Who knows where the dirty money came from? Bugle Duo, what's wrong? Are you jealous again? Since it was a deleted account battle, what was there to be afraid of? World, Fairy Baby, it's none of your business. Horn Duo, do I need a reason to be unhappy with you? This girl named Duo could be considered to have helped her openly. It was probably because she couldn't stand such jealous people. It was a matter of course for boys to be rich, but for girls to be rich, they must be kept by someone. This logic, after this one-on-one battle, the audience was completely on Luo Qingxuan's side. After all, everyone had to be responsible for what they said, and Gao Zhan was no exception. Horn Fairy's little tale. I already said that I will delete my account. What are you guys still talking about? Horn Duo. So the one called Fairy won't delete it? Horn Fairy's little tale. It's none of your business. If you have the ability, then insert the flag. The next second, Luo Qingxuan quickly typed a line on the keyboard. Chapter 1975. It had to be said that although Little Tail's words were a bit unpleasant to hear, he was still quite protective of Fairy Baby. Even if Fairy Baby didn't come out to speak, he still gave her enough face and protection. The next second, the private chat sounded again. Luo Qingxuan thought it was her disciple, sending her congratulations, but she didn't expect it to be the original owner's current contract, Sun Male God. From the beginning to the end, no matter how much the bugle horn quarreled, it had never sounded the bugle horn for her, nor had it issued a world contract for her. To be honest, was there a problem with the original owner's eyesight? This kind of contract or not? Was she going to keep it for the new year? Private chat. Sun Male God. Ching, let's just forget about it. We're all in the same guild. Why make it so ugly? Haha, if she had lost just now, this scumbag would not have gone up the horn to speak up for her. Maybe he even wanted her to delete her account and give him all her valuables. That way, he could go and pick up his sweetheart. Private chat. Qingxia. Same guild? Luo Qingxuan's words were concise, but the meaning was very clear. Private chat. Sun Male God. That's right. No matter what, Tail is still our guild's expert. If she just deleted her account, it would affect this week's Territory War. Territory War. In this game, Territory War was the most exciting large-scale guild war. Right now, Drunken Dream, Flower Wine, and World Conqueror were the two strongest guilds in light years. The two guilds fought fiercely every week. In the original owner's memory, the number one player on the leaderboard should be Drunken Dream, Flower Wine's number one Lightblade, Muyu. Territory War represented a guild strength, so the guild leader spared no effort in roping in experts. Fairy Tail could be considered an expert in World Conqueror. Private chat. Qingxia. What does it have to do with me? The next second, Luo Qingxuan left the guild without saying anything. She directly flew to the contract location from the teleportation circle, planning to break the contract by herself. The moment she left the guild, Sun Adonis froze for a moment. After all, when he brought her into the guild a few days ago, she was very happy. Not only did she give red packets to the guild members, but she also sang for him. Why was it like she was a different person today? Her actions were sharp, every word so indifferent. The next second, before he could react, he had already received the mail of breaking the contract. System announcement. Player Qingxia used a single secret method to break the contract with player's son, Prince Charming. From now on, Cloud Falling Continent will never see each other again. World, Luo Qinghuan Dam. Big Boss broke the contract by herself. World, Newton's Apple. So high. Wow, look, Big Boss to leave the guild. World, Sky City. Why do I suddenly feel like Big Boss Qingxia is a little cool? It had to be said Luo Qingxuan felt that her actions were quite handsome. There was only one word, cool. Cool's right, the yes here's. Private, Son Prince Charming. Private, Son Prince Charming, what's going on? Private chat, Sun Male God. What do you mean? Is it interesting to break the contract by yourself? Dozens of messages flooded her. The next second, she clicked on his profile picture and right-click to add him to the blacklist.